And first of all, I want to thank Al Ayman, the best manager in the world.
He's the fucking champion of the world!
Nuthouse Stevenson, piece of shit.
No, I think Estrada, good boy. Estrada is a good boy.
I've become a massive international superstar, it's as simple as that.
I eat your ass on a logic, bitch. Scared of the real man. I'll fuck you till you love me, faggot.
I'm going to physically shoot David Hay. He fucking glassed me. He glassed me. Derek, who's out?
I'm Shannon Briggs. I'm hard to kill. I'm the black piece of the ball. I'm hard to fucking kill.
Well, I believe Christopher can take a punch. I'm very good at math and looking at a fighter and seeing what his abilities are. I can't see that Golovkin has anything like Christopher's speed, his power, his punching ability, his hand speed, his foot movement. I don't see that from a calculating point of view. I don't see that he has anything like that. So then it's going to come down to heart.
You know, I spoke to Joe Gallagher, they don't want to fight Carl Frampton. And the bottom line is, you know, no disrespect to Prosper Anchor, these guys aren't good enough to face Carl Frampton.
I'm the best heavyweight champion in the world. I'm have WBC with me. I'm undefeated champion. Undisputed champion. I want who next?
He's got my dinyl-ribonucleic acid.
Undisputed heavyweight champion of the world. Who next?
I love boxing, Sam. It's as simple as that.
Welcome everyone to the 1st of February edition, 110th edition of the Nuthouse podcast brought to you by BoxSam.com. We're very thin on the ground this week. With me today, Andy Patterson, the host. I've got Alex Morris, Steve Wellens and Kurt Ward. Kyle McLaughlin feeling pretty poorly, I believe. I think he's going away to his bed. Donny's claiming that he's actually got a uni assignment due sometime shortly, but I think he's probably in his wanking chariot with cheesy nachos waiting on the egg throwing ball to come on. What do you think, guys? I think that's what we're up to anyway.
Yeah. Yep.
It's been a pretty rough day for me, guys, in all honesty. I mean, we got pumped at the football. Mikael Kessler's retired, you know, but I suppose on the bright side, Britain's got another possibly world title challenger coming up through the ranks. Kevin Mitchell, who basically, I think everyone basically said it was his last chance saloon there. Failure last night with basically meant probably the end of his prospects at world title level. Last night he was very, very dominant, punch perfect, outclassed Daniel Estrada from Mexico. I think it was the third round knockdown with a left hook that basically dropped Estrada right on the seat of his arse. But I think basically, you know, you can't really fault him. That, even though you could probably say Estrada maybe slightly past his best, but even then, you know, he had no answer whatsoever towards Kevin Mitchell's punching ability and his skills and stuff. I mean, last night he was rolling to the side and popping up with a left uppercut from underneath. Absolutely brilliant performance. You know, I think he's really come of age. He's probably started living the life more now. I don't think he actually even wasted a punch. He wasn't really gung-ho as much. Basically at points he just got away with what he wanted to do in the end. I think it was a sharp left hook actually that basically put Estrada on the floor. But in the end, I've got absolutely no problems with the stoppage. You know, there's no point in letting Estrada continue basically getting outclassed and getting beaten because he was taking some heavy punches there. So it's good to see that Kevin Mitchell's finally got his shit sorted and maybe again challenging for the world title, but which we'll get on to in a minute. Kurt, you know, that performance last night, basically, you remember you saying last night that performance basically back in the day actually had you backing him to beat Ricky Burns at that point. So give me your take on that Kevin Mitchell that we saw last night.
Well, I think everyone knows Kevin Mitchell has got a lot of talent, but as Ricky Burns shown, you know, he didn't have the same dedication as Ricky Burns. Ricky got everything out of his talent, and I don't think Mitchell never has. He had some good nights, but he's just never, you know, for various reasons, personal issues, you know, it's not excuses, that's his own fault, and, you know, if he doesn't turn up in shape or mentally, physically, he deserves to get, you know, knocked out, and Ricky Burns and Michael Getsidis did a good job on him. But I think last night showed that, you know, when he switched on and he comes in, with the right attitude. He shows what he's about, and I don't know whether he can beat Linares or anyone like that, but he makes it a much more competitive fight, and now people are believing that he can do good things. And yes, he's still got the fragility about him that he can take a shot, and he's vulnerable, but his speed there and power was on point last night. And every shot, Estrada made it easy for him, let's be honest. No head movement, very basic looking and very slow, but going into that fight, many, including myself, thought that Mitchell would be in trouble and would be hurt at some point, but he made him look absolutely terrible, to be honest, and destroyed him. And I think the key is with Eddie now, if you can get him a title shot, great, but if you can't, get him out again. He's got to stay active, because too many times Mitchell's been sitting on the shelf for 8-9 months, and I don't think that's good for him at all. He's one of these fighters I think needs to be out and needs to be active, and I think you'll see the best. And like I said, I think he's good enough to win a world title, and just if his head's screwed on and he has the right attitude, he'll definitely have a good shot, and he'll look good in his performance, I think.
Alex, just before we do get on to the discussion of Mitchell's prospects of winning a world title, Estrada last night, sending in that right hand, I think he was sending it in, by email on 3 days' notice, basically. I mean, he was very, very slow and ponderous there last night, but I don't think it really mattered if he was even in his peak or at his prime. I just think that Mitchell, it's just that moment in your life and in your career that you're actually going to be just for one night, perhaps one night only, you turn up. Mitchell's admitted himself that it was the best he's ever fought, and on that form, probably, if he can keep that going, he's going to be unstoppable. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's almost disappointing that Estrada was so awful, because it does put a slight taint on, Mitchell's performance almost. I mean, he was excellent last night. He was very sharp, just picking his shots excellently, landing at will. I mean, yeah, it wasn't difficult to land on Estrada, but the fluidity of his punches and his combinations was excellent, and it was a joy to watch, really. I mean, the fight almost went on too long, I thought, because in the end Estrada was just getting hit with absolutely everything. He looked just so slow and sluggish and beaten up and battered. It was almost, Ian John Lewis should have arguably stopped that a lot sooner. I mean, how often do we say that about Ian John Lewis? But, all credit to Kevin Mitchell, I think, because he will obviously he's going to look to face Jorge Linares, and that's going to be a very difficult fight for him, but obviously we're going to discuss that in a minute. But no, I was very impressed with what he did last night. Obviously I bet against him. I bet on Estrada, like a lot of people. There's apparently a good value in that market at 5-1 for an Estrada KO, but if you watched that last night, I wouldn't put a pound on 100-1 for Estrada to KO him. He was that fucking awful, and the victory was that dominant by Mitchell. He just completely controlled the entire fight. I mean, yeah, there were moments on the inside. Estrada got in, and typical Mexican, he's incredibly tough. He took several just clean punches just to try and land some of his own, and he did get a few in, and Mitchell again just rolled with them. He slipped them a couple of times. He took a good punch. He never really seemed in a lot of danger, and he kept his composure. People say that Mitchell's best fight and best win was probably the Prescott fight, but I certainly think that performance eclipsed it. But again, it's just a shame that Estrada's complete awfulness and shiteness almost brings it down a little bit.
Steve, I must admit as well, as I was one of the guys, it was probably actually late on yesterday, I decided that I was going to back some money on Estrada by stoppage. 92 odds were just too good. I don't know if I was maybe just overrating Estrada, just basically off the back of that Omer Figueroa fight. Now I know Figueroa actually kind of was widely outpointing him, and basically I don't rate Figueroa and all that honesty as well. But I think Estrada showed in that fight he could, he could basically, give Figueroa everything he could handle. I think he showed periods that he had good boxing ability during that fight as well. As Kurt says, he's maybe got that fragility about Mitchell still, and I thought that maybe Estrada might have been able to basically exploit any weakness in Mitchell. And there was questions going into that fight though that he might have been a faded force. Did you think that?
Not really. Actually, when you mentioned it there on Twitter, I think it was somebody that asked us the question, hadn't they, on Twitter before, who do you think's going to win? And I always fancied Mitchell, but I thought that Mitchell's victory or the margins of defeat were always going to be based on what he was lacking rather than what Estrada was bringing. I felt that Mitchell had the natural ability, and it was just depending whether his head was right, whether his weight was right. We know he's had problems with living the life outside the ring in the past, and I always thought it was going to be down to Mitchell. And as it turned out, he was just completely focused, right on the job from the start, got the jab moving, got the head moving, brilliant punch economy. Like you said, he didn't waste a lot. Even when he threw the left hook and he missed it, he was back on task. I was really impressed with his head movement, the way he was moving, and he just befuddled Estrada. Estrada just looked very slow. Maybe the Figueroa fighter took a lot out of him, but he was slow. His head movement wasn't there. He had no foot movement. He was too upright, and he was just a sitting duck for Mitchell's right hands and his left hooks. They were just landing flush over and over again. So I would say, regarding the world title fight, before we get carried away maybe with Mitchell's chances, I think Estrada's style was maybe made to order for him. So, I mean, we'll have to see whenever Mitchell sort of shuffles back towards true world class. Well, you know, it'll be a different proposition then. That's just a word of caution, though, because, to be fair, it was a really solid night's work for Mitchell. And I was thinking about the Linares fight. I'm a big fan of Jorge Linares. He's a world-class talent, but he has world-class flaws. And Mitchell does have a chance. It might only be a slight chance, but he does have a chance because he's always been a talented guy, Kevin Mitchell. He turned pro very early, if you remember, back on the old Frank Warren ITV cards. Yeah. He seems to have been around for ages, but it's his dedication that has always been questioned, like I said at the beginning, rather than his talent, and he's finally living up to the potential now. Hopefully it's not too late, so I would give him a slight chance against Linares, but not a great one.
That's the thing. I mean, people, you know, picking Estrada, I think, you know, now you look at him and you think, oh, why did you bother? But I think that it was more to do with Mitchell than Estrada. It's not that you think Estrada is some fantastic talent. Mitchell has been a proven liability when the pressure's on. Sometimes he's took it and done it, you know, and ran with it against Brady's Prescott. Other times against Burns and Katsidis, when the pressure was on, you know, he fell apart. And even in his last fight at Wembley, now, to his credit, he didn't fall apart. He was behind on points. He wasn't looking too good. He got the stoppage at the end. Other times, he might have fell away and just, you know, took a bit of a hiding and, you know, been pulled out. But he got through that, which was a good sign. But we must remember, you know, in that last fight, he didn't look too good. But yesterday, he looked fantastic. And, you know, like Steve says, Linares, for talent, Linares is a level above Kevin Mitchell. And Kevin Mitchell's a good fighter, but he is. But he has got two... A bit like Amir Khan, he's got a very dodgy chin, and also he cuts up very easily, and Mitchell's got the power to definitely hurt him. And if he hurts Linares, it's hard to see Linares getting through it, in my opinion, because he does fall apart as well. But if he boxes, you know, safely, it's hard to see Mitchell getting close to him. It'll be a really good fight, but it's a fight where it's much better chances improved for Mitchell now after last night's performance if he boxes like that.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it was a very solid display, like I said. You know, sharp, great head movement, body movement, just the way he was rolling under the punches there and coming up with the left hooks and the left uppercuts. But he just landed them at will, and he also had the firepower to hurt Estrada, and I think he actually had him figured out pretty early, compared to like the other guy that he fought. I forget his name off the top of my head just now. But basically, you know, that performance, you know, we didn't want to obviously, you know, over egg it slightly, but you know, I think you can look at that performance and say, right, okay, unreservedly, you can actually see that, you know, you can be excited about Mitchell's chances now. But at the same time as, you know, this Linares fight, if it ever happens, I don't think it will happen in the UK. I said this last night. I'm pretty certain the fight, if it's ever going to happen, would happen in Japan. Looking at technically, I think it'd be a good fight. Technically, you know, they're both good boxers. Linares probably slightly better. You know, good balance, good jab, good power as well in that right hand. But as you said, Kurt, he's got paper skin, dodgy chin. But you just wonder as well. I think he may have the power also to basically hurt and knock out Kevin Mitchell as well.
Yeah, I think that fight, anything could happen. I think Mitchell has to put it on him early and just see how he deals with it. But, you know, mentally he has fallen apart in the past, Linares. But, you know, the same could be said about Mitchell. I think the problem with Mitchell is he's already got a built-in excuse. So if he looks fantastic, it's because he's dedicated. And if he goes in there against Linares and gets sparked out in 2 rounds, he didn't take it seriously. I mean, I was pretty annoyed with the Katsidis fight. I would say he's got an excuse there. You know, it was, you know, well known that, you know, I think he was sleeping on his mum's settee in the build up to that fight and out at all hours. But for the Burns fight, he said everything was behind him. He was at his best. He lost, and he gave Ricky a lot of credit afterwards. It's only recently now they're saying that for that fight there was also problems, and that's what I don't like. You give the guy the credit and move on. Say he just lost on the night, he wasn't at your best, which he wasn't. And that's what I'm thinking. When he does. If he does struggle again or loses again, he's already got to build an excuse, and I just think, they've just got to forget about that now.
If he can weather the storm early against Linares, I think he's got a good chance. Like you said there, Kurt, he's got to put it on him early, but I always felt that Linares is the type of guy. I know he has been, I think he got knocked out early before, but he's the type of guy who's in the ascendancy early on. He looks $1 million for the first few rounds.
Fades, doesn't
Linares, and he starts to fade as the fights go on, starts to feel a bit sorry for himself. As you say, his skin starts to cut up, and I think Mitchell could definitely have a chance if the fight went on. But, would Linares have beaten the sort of resistance out of Mitchell by that point? That's the problem.
Yeah, says hopefully the fight that does happen, as I says, Kev Mitchell fans looking at that are going to be well excited about his prospects. Just thinking actually, obviously they've decided to go down the WBC route after the IBF situation. I think maybe made that mishap with the weight. I'm looking at the other champions just now. If he'd managed to kind of stay on point with his weight for that last fight at Wembley, Mickey Bay was. I think that would be a more winnable fight, but.
He pissed it against Bay, I think. With the performance last night, he destroyed Mickey Bay.
I'm just wondering as well, I see he's not got a ranking with the WBO. Also, that title is going to be becoming vacant at some point as well as, Juan Diaz. But I think Joshua was mentioned last night as well about potentially facing Crawford, did they not?
That should be. I think that's in the value of the week. I think, but I think it's like
Thomas again.
It's like you said. I mean, the fact is that he's probably going to have to go to Japan for this, and that is going to be an extremely tough trip to beat a guy over there. That's going to be really hard. I mean, I know they'll say they got a chance of bringing him over here, but you just can't see. And if Mitchell was over here, I think his chances would be a lot better, to be honest, with the crowd behind him. And that's the kind of thing that I think the pressure. That's when Linares would have to prove that he's over his mental problems and he can tough it out. Whereas in Japan, I think it's going to be a lot easier for him.
Abriel's the WBA champion, isn't he? At lightweight?
Yeah.
Isn't he fighting Derry Matthews?
Yep.
And Crawler's in the mix as well. Could you imagine then if Mitchell won the WBC? You think there'd be Matthews or Crawler managed to get hold of the WBA? They'd be stacking out them stadiums, wouldn't they, with these big unifications?
Pay-per-views,
yeah.
That's what I'm saying, yeah.
I was actually thinking today actually as well as if Mitchell somehow won the WBC title, he maybe give Burns the rematch. But then I realised they got the same trainer, so obviously that's never going to happen.
I could see them wheeling out Michael Katsidis for the revenge at Upton Park.
Christ, didn't mention that. I tell you, I was talking to Dejan's Laticanen, the guy who beat Burns. Actually, he's ranked third. I did a wee segment on him for boxing scene, and he was
calling him out, wasn't he?
He said he would knock him out. But I was just thinking as well as I really don't know how this kid's actually going to even get in the mix, because even though he's number 3, unless he gets mandated. So my understanding is, he was telling me, is in Montenegro is they haven't got any licensed boxing promoters. So practically he's a free agent. So you can just imagine, I know Mitchell was ranked 7th going into that fight last night. Zlaticanen's ranked 3rd. I was just wondering if Hearn might have a final eliminator and get his Zlatikanen over to see, just to basically kind of get that top 3, top 2 spot, and finally just kind of get the mandatory position. Does anybody want to see that one, or do you think maybe Mitchell should hang on for the Linares fight?
I think he maybe hang on.
Yeah, I mean, he'll probably fight some sort of guff between then and, maybe Linares towards the end of the year over in Japan.
Get bumped off, do they, in the meantime?
Yeah, like you said, it might actually be Katsidis again.
Revenge.
I wouldn't put it past Eddie. I mean, we saw him get trotted out for Tommy Coyle. Wouldn't get him, wouldn't see it. Put it past him to put old Kev Mitchell in there.
Moving down the card, anyway, guys. John Ryder, very, very disappointing performance. 10-rounder against Billy, was it Facando Godoy or something like that? I basically switched the fight off after 3 rounds. I managed to switch it back on again just before the knockout. Alex, shocking stoppage?
I can't remember. Was this the one with the bad stoppage?
I think it was this one. Yeah, it was the overhand left hand that dropped me.
Yeah.
I think the reason why he maybe stopped it was because the guy's lying flat on his back for like 5 or 6 seconds before he even moved. So Phil Edwards thinks that he's alright.
Isn't this the one where Hawlin said there's no way he's getting up from that, and then a second later he was like, "Fight on."
Hawlin was actually criticising this fight as well. He actually had the gall to say that the atmosphere there was awful for this fight. This fight was awful. He was actually doing a bit of criticism, which I was, very shocked about. But it did seem a bit premature. He was lying about on the floor. The knockdown was pretty heavy as well, but he got up and he was ready to fight. He didn't seem that hurt. He definitely deserved to go on, but I don't think any of us wanted the fight to go on because it was just fucking shit, really. I mean, I didn't score it. I didn't pay much attention to it. I think they're fucking Ryder about. I think Matchroom are doing Ryder a massive disservice ever since he lost to Billy Joe Saunders. They can't be fucked with him anymore, and they're putting him in these awful fights on these rubbish cards with, a quarter-field arenas, and he's suffering for it. He's fighting for absolutely nobody, really, since the Billy Joe fight, and that was a close fight. Look at where their careers are now. Billy Joe Saunders on the cusp of a world title fight. What's John Ryder doing? Scraping through against a spoiler in a fight that Nick Halling, criticises.
The other thing as well, I think Glenn McCrory was quite critical of the fight as well.
He was.
John Ryder needs opponents who are going to come to him and bring pressure. He's not going to do well against those type of guys. The thing is, look at the difference in Eubank and John Ryder, both in close fights with Saunders. Saunders deserved the win in both of them, but look at it now, Eubank's fighting Shudnoff, and where's Ryder? I mean, he's just in dull fights. I mean, I was impressed with him in the Saunders fight, considering where they're at. A bit like Eubank, he wasn't really supposed to make it that close. But he just there's no buzz about him or anything, is there? There's no hype around him. There's just with Eubank, he's got the dad, he can talk, and he's got all that. With Ryder, it seems rather dull. Everything does, and there's just no buzz. And the arena yesterday was didn't someone say on Twitter that people were reduced to playing a game, putting cups, see how many cups they could put on a sleeping man's head who'd fallen asleep in the
what
crowd.
happened to Max Brannan's son.
Exactly. It's just, I think they've got a hard job with Ryder, because I think he's a talented kid and, he can improve, but with his style, I think that he has to be matched carefully in respect that he needs guys who are going to bring it to him. If these guys who back off, and it's going to be an awful fight, because he's not going to go after looking for them and be destroying them in a few rounds.
Yeah. Going down that card again, John Wayne Hibbert, 8 rounds top against Tyler Goodjohn. Now, we've discussed in the past before, for you that have seen it anyway. I think everybody's bailing out, Steve, so just me and you just
I didn't see it.
Did you not see it?
No.
Oh,
Everybody
God.
else is gone.
Cut's gone for a piss, and Alex is at the pop away.
I watched John Ryder,
Okay, we'll go back to John Ryder just now then, until the rest of these shithawks get back.
Well, I suppose pretty much what all the other guys are saying. It was a good finish, but what came before was just far from impressive from Ryder. I think he's the type of guy who probably motivates himself when the level of opposition increases.
Yeah.
Put somebody decent in with him, someone who's not going backwards all the time. The likes of when Eamon O'Kane, he put it on Ryder big time. Just went at him completely wild for the first 5-6 rounds, and Ryder just took his time and picked him apart. And he also gave a quality performance against Billy Joe Saunders, so the talent's definitely there. They just need to get him some, decent fights, and I don't expect him to be making much noise at world level on this display, but I wouldn't mind him seeing fight the likes of Eubank Jr. or Spike O'Sullivan or somebody like that, because Eddie's packed him off to Box Nation before for the Billy Joe Saunders fight. So if he doesn't fancy him or he doesn't want to put him in big fights, why not let him go over to the likes of Box Nation and fight the likes of Eubank or Spike, Spike was on Sky in his last fight. It'd be an easy enough fight to make. They're obviously ploughing this sort of intercontinental international route to get the rankings, which is fair enough, but sometimes we'd rather just see them in competitive domestic fights than against these guys, no matter how it's pushing their ratings forward. So, fair enough to Ryder. He got the job done, but he doesn't seem to have the personality, or they're not pushing him forward for whatever reason. But he's got to have a test at some point.
Yeah, there's absolutely there's no kind of push here behind them. But what about I don't know if you've heard anything, Steve, about what's happened with Matthew Macklin, but would you even want to see Macklin in with the likes of John Ryder?
It'd be difficult to watch, wouldn't it? Especially with Ryder's style, because if you look at Ryder's style and then you look at the guy who beat Macklin in Dublin, Highland, similar thing, isn't it? Cagey southpaw, taking Macklin's shots and then coming back with more. How much has Macklin got to offer? He's had a lot of wars. Ryder might just do the same sort of job as Highland has. But Macklin, I was surprised. I thought he would maybe jack it in, but he's coming back out on the Birmingham show, isn't he, in May? Someone cynically put on Twitter, I think it was a couple of days ago, that Eddie sort of convinced him to give it another go to help shift a few tickets. But I mean, regardless of that, they're going to have to give him a handy one, aren't they? Macklin's going to have to be at least an 8-rounder if he's chief support, maybe a 10. But they'll have to find someone like this guy Godoy or something, because they can't put him in against anyone half decent. He needs to rebuild and really see what he has got left. I wouldn't mind seeing him fight Ryder, but it'll not be the next fight.
Anyways, I think we've got all the guys back now anyway. I know Kurt never saw the Tyler Goodjohn fight, but as I say, John Wayne Hibbert, 8-round stoppage against Tyler Goodjohn. I think we spoke about the referees in Britain a couple of podcasts ago, and I think that fight proved the reason why Victor Loughlin is the best British referee. There was no, although Goodjohn was eating a lot of heavy shots there last night, cut badly, Loughlin basically went into his corner and says, look, listen, you're getting one more round and that's it. There was no panic stoppage like John Lewis does, or Terry O'Connor does, or that guy, Phil Edwards that counted out, what do you call him, Malik Scott and Howard Foster. And I felt he handled that fight pretty well there last night. There was nothing coming back from Goodjohn, even though he was up against the ropes, defying, stuck his tongue out. There was just nothing in his punches, and then Loughlin, quite rightly, stepped in, and I felt it was a pitch perfect stoppage actually, and that's the way it should be done. You saw it?
Yeah, I saw it. But I can't really remember much about it. I mean, it was a good little scrap. Tyler Goodjohn really isn't much to shout about, is he? I mean, he really got beat up. He had his moments in that fight, I think, where I thought he was coming on quite strong a little bit, but nah. And Hibbert had a good performance. I mean, I don't really know a lot about either of them, but again, I thought Hibbert boxed pretty well and beat him up quite well. But apart from that, it was a good little, domestic little scrap, I suppose.
Sorry, you want to say something there, mate?
Yeah, I mean, about this card, I mean, I enjoyed the main event, and I enjoyed the first fight. Obviously, the Ryder fight we mentioned, I didn't see the other fight, but people were talking about it like it was a bit of a fight pass card, and I could see that, to be honest. I mean, if you take out the Kevin Mitchell Estrada, I know Anthony Joshua was supposed to be on it, but those fights, I mean, what do you think about those kind of fighters being on Sky Primetime? Because I saw some people, weren't really, saying that maybe they should be on Fight Pass, and then, once they've built up a bit. Yeah,
I can see that point of view, actually. I mean, I had no problem with some of those fights last night. I mean, the Ryder fight was complete shit. I mean, the Tommy Martin fight against Ricky Boylan was I thought it was a really good scrap fight, actually. 99-92 for Martin was just slightly wide, I think. But seeing as we're talking about that fight now, I can see the point of view that the fight should be on Fight Pass, but then it then proves it turned into a good fight, so maybe we wouldn't got a chance to see it, etc. I really don't know. I mean, what fights are showing on Fight Pass just now? Is it just the other promoters, etc.?
I've got no idea. I thought they show a lot of the young Matchroom stable as well. A lot of the young kids.
Haven't shown any Matchroom fighters yet. It's all been Coldwell stuff and Goodwin Promotions. That basically all the stuff that's used to be free is all that they've got on there at the moment. And this is the sort of gripe that I was having about Fight Pass last night. Is you're really doing you're really not getting anything for your money. You're really not getting anything that they promised. No Matchroom fighters so far, and if they do have any Matchroom guys on there, it'll probably be like guys making their debut, 1-0 fighters, rubbish like that.
Hold on, Alex, but aren't they getting the Oscar-winning show on there as well that you've mentioned on Twitter?
What's that?
Oh, yeah, Kugan Cassius show. That's up for a few Oscars. I think it's extremely well produced. Obviously, I wouldn't want to slate poor Coogan. We know he just puts a lot of work into it and put a lot of effort into his work. So
And not only that, don't you get a free T-shirt, I believe?
a free T-shirt, yeah. For your £30, you get a T-shirt, a Fight Pass T-shirt, possibly a hoodie as well. I think some people have received.
So it's 30 quid. 30 quid a month.
Tickets. 30 quid for the year. For the year, you pay
How'd
up front.
you get it? Is it on Red Button or what?
No, it's like an online thing. Like you go on their website and there's a button that you click for Fight Pass, and you can get like apparently some old Matchroom fights like you can watch on there. That they've got recordings of or whatever. You can watch the Goodwin shows or the Coldwell shows, and Coogan does some sort of boxing magazine show on there.
Right.
I think we've got Chris Walker coming on the call shortly.
Did Steve sounded a bit unsure there? I'm just wondering, is he going to purchase this?
This is my point. You also get priority purchasing rights on Matchroom shows tickets as well, which a lot of people seem to think that that's worth it. But for 30 quid a year, I mean, and you're promised all this other stuff, it's really they're taking the piss a bit.
On the call now, we've got Christopher. Is it Christopher? Or is it Chris?
Yeah, well, Chris,
How you doing,
should.
mate?
That's
Chris?
not too bad. Yeah, finally good to be on. You's okay?
Yeah, not bad, mate, not bad. Where are you from?
I'm from Liverpool.
Liverpool?
Yeah.
Good stuff. I was going to say something smart there, but I better know.
I read it all.
What's in your mind, mate?
No, I'm just it's about the Matchroom card last night. I really thought it was a decent show. I thought, barring the John Ryder fight. I think in terms of quality, I thought the fight delivered. I thought Kevin Mitchell looked impressive, and thought it was a very decent, well-matched show. Something that we don't always get from Matchroom, but I did think they delivered last night.
Yeah, I think it was. I mean, we'll have to discuss the Tommy Martin fight against Ricky Boylan. I thought it was a very good fight. I think Boylan just thought he could maybe actually walk through everything that Martin had. And to be honest, I felt that it could have turned actually into that, and maybe Boylan could have got the late stoppage. But I think after the 6th round, Martin just showed his ability, and he just showed what it was made of. Tough, good jab. I think this kid is going to be something good to watch, especially when he gets his man strength in a bit. He's only 20 years old. British champion, I think, definitely in the making there.
Yeah, I thought Martin probably stole the show, to be fair. Not including Mitchell. I think he was the best of a very good undercard. But I thought some of the commentary was unfair against Martin through I think it was rounds 4, 5 and 6. I think Jim Watt and Nick Holland under the usual term where they pick a fighter and just pretty much stick with him. But I think them middle rounds, he showed a lot of character. He showed some very good resilience, and I think he ran away with the fight towards the end.
What do you make of Mitchell's chances for a world title now? I mean, obviously, they're going to be looking at potentially Jorge Linares. Do you fancy him in that fight?
I'd say it's probably about 60-40 in Linares' favour. It all depends where the fight is. If Eddie can get him over to London, then I think it gives him a better chance. But if he boxes like he did last night, he'd have a decent chance against the likes of Linares. But talking like Terence Crawford last night was just probably showed a bit of lack of education by some who were on the panel, because obviously if we're moving up to 140, I think if ever the chance came to fight Terence Crawford, Mitchell should avoid that at all costs, whether Terence decides to stay at lightweight or not.
Definitely. Anything else you want to discuss, mate?
No, that's it. It's just finally good to come on. I listened to the show quite a lot, and it's just thought it was just right to come on and have a little chat with you, see what it's all about. But appreciate you having me on. Been really
no worries,
good.
mate. Call back in again. Just so I don't know much
Thanks very
action
much
to
for that.
discuss.
Good luck
Thanks
with
a
the
lot,
rest of the
mate.
show, boys.
Cheers,
Have a
mate.
listening.
Bye, Chris.
Cheers.
Nice one, mate. Cheers.
Just on that Martin fight, I mean, give me your thoughts on it. I mean, obviously, as I say, Martin, I think he did really well in the 6th round, just changed the tide of the fight. I didn't think it would turn round as I thought it would, because I thought Boylan would end up getting to him, actually, especially when he got him on the ropes, worked the body, but I think it just showed as well as it's usually box now, over brawn, end of the day. I think Boylan just basically tired going down the stretch, and it's looking like now, I don't know if anybody wants to see it, but it's screaming for a rematch between Boylan and Goodjohn now.
I think that fight yesterday, it had the makings of, you thought, Martin was going to box well, but eventually he was going to get worn down. Boylan was just steaming in. Martin was, like you said, he was really impressive. I never saw him before, to be honest, but 20 years old, I was really impressed by the way he jabbed and moved, and obviously he was the better boxer. But you just thought he was going to be too much for him down the stretch, as the guy just kept coming forward, going to the body. But not only his boxing ability he impressed me, but his toughness, because he did tough it out. He was caught on the ropes a few times. He took some nasty body shots, but he got over that, and then he went back to his boxing again, and he deserved winner. And I think, he, like you said, he's definitely someone to watch. And sometimes it takes a performance like that to get people, to notice him. And I was impressed with him because I thought Boylan would definitely, wear him down as it stretched on.
He certainly came out with a lot of intent in him. I mean, I kind of, that's what kind of made me think that Boylan would catch up with him, because he came out there very, very quick. The only problem could be is, I know he's only 20, but he's only got 3 knockouts and stuff, so you just wonder as well if maybe the punching power isn't there. Maybe it's just a matter of technique, or maybe he just needs to kind of grow into his body a little bit more, as he says when he gets his man strength. But certainly definitely one for the future, certainly on the domestic scene. We'll just need to kind of wait and see how he actually kind of comes forward. But we're just going to get a Seaphone very shortly with his heavyweight breakdown, with his fortnightly segment. I think he's got some news for us.
I thought that if Martin did have a bit more power, he probably could have put Boylan away a lot sooner. I mean, he was just toying with him at some point. To be honest, I did tweet around the 5th or 6th round that, Martin looks fucked there, he's going to get knocked out, and then he turns it around and just completely outboxes him and dominates down the stretch. So, fair play to him. He did have that little bit of trouble around the 4th, 5th round, but he took back control, and he had it fairly comfortable, man.
Now, we've got a Seif on the line who's using a hammer for something. I don't know what he's doing back there. Seif, mate, how you doing?
Are you alright?
Not bad, mate. Listen, I believe some heavyweight action yesterday. Sonny Bill Williams back in action against Chauncey Williver, and I think you've got some news for us as well. Take it away, mate.
Yeah, Chauncey Williver, Sonny Billy Williams. To be honest, that was probably the most exciting thing of the last 2 weeks, really. It's been a pretty quiet 2 weeks. It's been a quiet 2 weeks when the only name that stand out are Chauncey Williver and Chad Witherspoon. But yes, Sonny Bill Williams, he's a part-time boxer. He's won 6 fights, and he splits between boxing and Australian rules football. He's six fights, 6 wins, even though his last fight, or one of his fights, was against the old Francois Botha, and Francois Botha was about to knock him out at the end, but he got the decision. But fair play, Sonny Bill Williams, he doesn't take it too seriously. He's honest. He knows he's never going to be a world beater. So, but I mean, it was what it is, really. It's a bit like Andrew Flintoff down under, really. But otherwise, aside from a quiet 2 weeks, I think it's going to be a good year. Not just for heavyweight boxing, really. I think we're in for a good year of boxing this year. I mean, if you look at the timetable in other weights, which I do, keep an eye to, well, with the Lucas Matisse Provodnikov fight being announced. There's a lot of good fights, especially in the next couple of months. But just to recap on the heavyweights now, it has been confirmed since I last came on that Klitschko will fight Jennings on the 25th. The press conference is going to be this Wednesday in New York, and I think it'll be interesting to see if Shannon Briggs turns up at the press conference.
Aye, probably.
So that's going to be done. I think Jennings, I feel a bit bad for him. I mean, he's a top contender. He's ranked top 5 in all the sanctioning bodies. But now he's an official Klitschko opponent. He's getting, he's getting the typical ridicule. Or he's got no chance. He's too small. Why is Klitschko fighting this bum for? And people forget when Klitschko picked an opponent like Mariusz Wach. People were like, oh goodness gracious, why is he picking this guy for? But after that, people are saying, oh, why doesn't Tyson Fury fight Wach? Why doesn't Deontay Wilder fight Wach? So a lot of opponents, they're good opponents, but for whatever reason, when they get put in with Klitschko, they automatically drop from being a top contender to someone who's got no chance. But it is what it is, really. I say big news. It's big news for me anyway. Is the boxer Robert Helmenius. Hopefully, he's going to be back in April or May. I know they were thinking about getting him in with Alexander Ustinov. I think that would be a good fight for him to return and getting chucked in the deep end straight away. I know he's been off the radar for the last few years because of injuries, especially to his hand, and also he's been having promotional issues with Howland. So he's not been active for a lot of the last couple of years, but hopefully, fingers crossed, he'll be back this year. I mean, he's still young, he's still only 29, 30 years old, so, and hope he can take off where he left off, really. I think it's since there was a lot of hype about this guy, but since his victory over Derek Chisora, which was a blatant robbery, by the way, since that fight, he's never really been the same. And also, he puts it down to the injuries, but I still think it's good to have him back. He's a good name, he's a big name in heavyweight boxing. And incidentally, if he didn't go out of boxing, he would have ended up. He could have possibly fought Vladimir Klitschko instead of Alex Neopai, because at the time Robert Helmenius was number 1 WBO ranked before he went off the radar. So hopefully he'll be back. In other news, Deontay Wilder is probably going to come back in June. His manager was talking about a fight in June. I know they're interested in Tyson Fury, but I think they'll keep it domestic in the States. Speaking of Tyson Fury, he's actually in quite a good position because not only is he mandatory for Vladimir Klitschko, I'm sure Deontay Wilder's team will actually look towards Tyson Fury because he's a big name. They think he can beat him, and Tyson Fury is in pretty much a win-win situation, maybe, because whatever his next big fight is, it's going to be for a world title, either mandatory against Klitschko or voluntary. I assume he may go where the money is, but he won't fight in the States for reasons I mentioned the last time. This week, the only fights to look forward to next week are Mike Perez. He's something to stay busy against journeyman Donnell Wilson, which he should win, and after that, he's probably going to look to fight Alexander Povetkin. Povetkin's team are looking to probably get him back in May. Povetkin fights normally a couple of times a year, so they're looking to get him back in May. So we'll have to see how the next few months pan out with that. Also, the British guy is fighting this week as well, Billion White. For people who don't know Billion White, he was banned for 2 years for steroids, well, for drugs anyway. And he was banned. It was quite controversial. People were saying even there is a scapegoat, but he's back now and he's trying to keep busy. He's not attached to a promoter, and the reason for this is because he wants to fight on a regular basis. People who don't know Billion White is in the amateurs, and you can find it on YouTube. He beat and he dropped Anthony Joshua, saying that if they fought next week, I think Anthony Joshua would win. I think Dillian White's got a lot of rebuilding to do, but he has been in good training camps. He was in Vladimir Klitschko's training camp, so we'll see how he comes along, but hopefully that would be a good fight, a good domestic fight at some stage between Anthony Joshua and Dillian White. Just for further information, he's going to fight the tall Brazilian journeyman Nascimento, who's kind of been around a bit now. And just on the domestic scene, really, one of your Scottish boys, Gary Cornish, he's going to be fighting, I think, at the end of February. It's going to be a journeyman. It's not up on BoxRec yet, but I think it's some guy from Hungary. He's undefeated tall heavyweight from, I think he's from Paisley.
He's up from the Highlands, mate. I think he's around about Inverness area, I think.
It's not from England. It's so the same to me, mate.
I know there's difference, mate. I mean, from Glasgow and the Highlands,
Yeah.
it's totally different, honestly.
Yeah, I know Glasgow. I go there at least every year. I've got my sister, my nephew's up there, so I go there quite often. But I don't
One set I usually a shower of sheep shaggers, another one I just have basically a kind of like a gang of machete killers, you know.
Okay. Not very glamorous then. But yeah, so hopefully Gary Cornish will fight, and I know he was supposed to fight. I can't remember. I think he was supposed to fight one of the bigger fights, but they get pulling out. And also on the domestic line, a fight that's been arranged is Ali Adams against Tom Dallas. It's just a small fight that's going to happen, I think, in a couple of months. Going back to the international view, the WBA now, Ruslan Shagayev, he won the regular belt. It's been a long time. I think it was in June or July, and this week, hopefully, the WBA are going to give us an answer about what's going to happen next. Originally, he was due to fight Luis Ortiz, but obviously Luis Ortiz got banned for drugs, and the time after he won the title, Ruslan Shagayev had 180 days to make a voluntary, and he's obviously not had one. So I think that hopefully the WBA will announce something this week. I hope it could be Lucas Brown. I know he's interested in fighting Ruslan Shagayev, and I think that would be a good fight just to shut Lucas Brown up, really. Ahmed Mansour, a lot of fight guys thought he should have had a knockout of the year. I know it's a long while away, but he's scheduled to fight in May. However, he has been saying that he may spar with Alexander Povetkin to get prepared for Mike Perez, because Mike Perez is the southpaw, Ahmed Mansour the southpaw, and Ahmed Mansour did mention something about fighting on Povetkin's undercard, which I think will be good. Povetkin's management team is quite good at that. They often let quite a few sparring partners fight on the undercard, so it'll be good to see him out there. And what else? Yes, the pointless rematch between Tony Thompson and Solis has been confirmed for February 20-something, but I imagine that will probably get cancelled again with another injury. And just on the domestic, on the European heavyweight scene, because I'm quite a big fan of the European heavyweight scene. I think it's quite good, it's quite underrated. There's a couple of boxers which are going to be fighting for the EBU mandatory to fight Tyson Fury. There's a chap called Erkan Tepe. He's a Turk fighting out of Germany. He's 6'5". He's got quite a few, I say decent knockouts. He's knocked out your typical Sprots, your Rogans, but he's the first round knockout to 6'5", and he's fighting a French guy called Johan Duhopaz. He's 32-1. He's not really beaten anybody of note. His only defeat was, I think, against Francesco Pianetta. But I think it's good to have these, these good European, French contenders fighting against each other. And obviously, the winner fights Tyson Fury. Well, the winner is EBU mandatory. And I suppose, if Fury is going to look for a taller opponent after Christian Hammer, one of these two may be a good option, really. He should win. It's not that much of a risk, and it should keep him busy as well.
He broke Rogan's jaw, I think I see.
Oh, yeah,
that fight.
he did, yeah. I mean, if you look at the knockouts of Sprott and Martin Rogan, they were quite scary, Erkan Tepe. They were supposed to fight in December, actually, these two, but I think Tepe got appendicitis. So that was the reason that fight got delayed, but I'm glad it's back on, really. And also, I need to mention Hugh Fury. Hugh Fury's Tyson Fury's cousin. He's fighting Andrei Rudenko, who's pretty tough as steel, really. He lost to Lucas Brown, but he's got a really good chin, so I think that'll be a good test for Hugh Fury. And there's a lot of the Furies out. I know Peter Fury's I don't know if his son or nephew, Dempsey Fury. He's going to be out as well soon, so there's a lot of theories out about nowadays. Just in case people forget as well, Christian Hammer is also, it's going to be interesting because he's also a gypsy as well, his background. So that fight between Tyson Fury against Christian Hammer is actually gypsy versus gypsy, which is an interesting fact about that fight. So And just aside from that, really, I know I've mentioned it on my Twitter account. 2015. I mean, if you look at the schedule, other weight classes, it looks like such a good year. The next 2-3 months, especially, the next month, it's so many fights in every weekend seems to be a world class fight. And I know that Terence Crawford may also be fighting Crystal Beauty as well. That may get announced for March 21st as well for the WBO belt. That's obviously assuming the Pacquiao fight is announced soon. So that'll be another good fight. That will be Terence Crawford stepping up from lightweight to light welterweight. And that's about it for me, really.
Azif, I have another couple for your radar here. Con Sheehan's turned pro. He's a former Irish elite champion at heavyweight, and he's turned professional. I don't think he's signed terms with anybody yet, but he's a good boxer, so I'm going to have a look at see what happens to him. And then there's another guy who I'm not sure if you're aware of or not, but Sean Big Sexy Turner. He's a big punching heavyweight from Dublin. He fought in the WSB as well. He's got a bit of spite about him. I think he's fighting in Dublin next Friday night, and he fought Anthony Joshua as an amateur as well. So you want to keep an eye out for him.
But the only big sexy I know is Kevin Nash from the WWE.
No, this is Big Sexy Turner. See him, look him up on YouTube.
Apparently Steve gave him that nickname. Don't know why.
Yeah. there's a heavyweight fight on next week. I see just before we let you go. Mike Perez, his faces off against Darnell Wilson.
Yep.
Now, as I say, he's been stopped by Glaskov, Boisov and Gomez. I know he beat Gomez, but at the end of the day as well, he's got 25 wins. 21 of those wins have come by knockout. 18 defeats, 6 of which have been by stoppage and 3 draws. Do you think this guy's going to pose Perez any problems if he's not on the ball?
No, mate. Sorry about that. No, don't bet on him. Basically, he's 40 years old now, and he beat Juan Carlos Gomez. I think Gomez was injured that fight, and I think Gomez might have won the rematch. I can't remember. But he's 40 years old now. He's a journeyman, and he's just brought in. I know Mike Perez since the Abdus Salama fight. He drew against Carlos Takam, a fight many people felt Carlos Takam won, and obviously he got a split decision defeat to Brian Jennings. The first half of the fight, he was actually dominating Brian Jennings, but he gassed down the last 6 rounds, and in the last round he actually got deducted a point, which was very unfair. If that point wasn't deducted, that fight would have been a draw, but he lost just because he got deducted a point on the last fight. So I think Mike Perez, he needed a bit of a confidence booster. He's got a new trainer. But I'm just looking to see, after this fight, get that fight with Alexander Povetkin, mate. And that will be a good fight.
No worries. I'll just say, Bobby Hunter's just told us there that Gary Cornish's next opponent is a Maranhão Goles.
Yes.
I think he's 15-2 with 12 knockouts.
Yep. I think that's the chap that comes to mind.
No probs. Okay, I see. Thanks a lot for your heavyweight breakdown again this week, mate. So we'll see you again in the fortnight.
Yeah, great. Thanks. Cheers, nobody.
Cheers, mate. All the best.
Cheers,
man.
Just before we move on to Twitter questions, actually, I don't know what's going to happen with this potential fight, but you know how I should have asked Asif when he was on there actually about the rumours with Marco Huck if he's going to move up to heavyweight in the foreseeable future. But I noticed last night that Christoph Golacki scored a 12-round decision against Nuri Sefera, which is basically an eliminator for the WBO cruiserweight title, and Golacki is actually number 1 contender, Bellew's number 2 and Seferi was number 3. So I just wonder now if Huck's still going to be hanging around or whatever, that maybe Golacki and Bellew might end up fighting for the vacant title, or if Golacki will get his shot at Hook. Just need to wait and see. But the next thing on the agenda is the Twitter questions. Now, Box Mad Kurt is asking, in your view, will we continue to see the trend of one fight salvaging an entire card like we did last year? I don't know really about that, really, because some of the cards last year just failed to deliver, period.
Yeah, I think as a promoter, they're always hoping when a card's not lived up to the hype. They're hoping that, the main event. I mean, it's like, if you look at the Barry Cleverly, I mean, if we said it at the time, if that fight had been really great and had a lot of drama, people would have not really probably, remembered the undercard just for that fight. It's a bit like the Frutchgrove's the first fight. The undercard was poor, but because the fight was good, no one really bothered about that. So, yeah, I mean, a promoter would hope for that if that's the case. But, a lot of the times we're getting, even the main events are not living up to expectations, so we're getting a poor card. So, really just hope for better matchmaking, to be honest.
Just wonder how this is all going to pan out with Al Heyman, actually, with his NBC deal. I'm just wondering, I think obviously he's going to try and spread it over another network, and I think he's got rumours in the pipeline that he's looking at other networks to put his fights on and stuff. So I just wonder if we're going to get what we got in 2013, get some good fights, and then 2016 then they're going to see some shit fights like they did the last time. Just give us a wee insight, and then just start kind of making the most money by making the worst fights, basically. But who knows? Next one. Sorry, Alex.
I was going to say, he'd have to go out of his way to make it worse than last year.
Last year was pretty bad.
But
the NBC deal might be quite good for us time-wise. Apparently they're going to
be
Saturday in the afternoon, aren't they? Yeah.
I think there's 9 fights that are going to be like, their afternoon, so our prime time.
So we can suffer
like 8, 9 o'clock, right?
But it's annoying because if you look at the fights that he's made for this NBC, they're good fights. Brown and Molina, what's the other one? Furman Guerrero. But then you got this Garcia Peterson, which is a good fight. But then you find out about this catch weight bullshit, and you just that's the kind of things that you just think, what's the point?
Hasn't he got a deal with some other network, like Spike TV or something as well? He's gone out to.
Yeah.
And nothing can ever be simple with him, can it? Like you said, Kurt, you get a good fight and that's brilliant, and then it has to be shuffled around and they have to move the titles to different weights. It can never be simple with Heyman. Hopefully when he puts these fights on, it'll be a sign of things to come. It's not just going to be like the last year when he puts a few decent ones on and everything after that is complete rubbish.
Right, Grand Theft Shape. Right, this is the guy who I was getting mixed up with. Shape on the forum. It's a different guy altogether.
Oh, that's not our Shape, no?
No.
I thought it was. Oh.
Shape Pest is not Shape, but Shape's got 2 questions in, but this is from Shape Pest, Steve. Is AJ actually a fan of boxing? He talks the type of cliches you hear from someone pretending to follow the sport. I didn't really hear much about what Joshua was saying last night, but I think this is kind of more aimed at his comment about Mitchell against Crawford facing off.
I think I'll give him a pass. He was supposed to be headlining, wasn't he? He got injured. They thought they'd chuck him on. He's like gold dust at the moment to the fans, casuals and hardcores alike. Everybody knows the face. They're looking to up the profile, so it doesn't matter what sort of shit he talks as long as he stand there. Looking impressive,
This is my gripe with it, that I think that he's got a point that, AJ, he's coming across as very sort of manufactured. He's coming across as, he's just very fake at times. I think that he's very media trained, and he's always being told.
Joe Lewis type.
Yep.
He's being very told what to say at all times, and he knows he's got an agenda to push rather than, he's being a genuine guy who's out there. I mean, all he talked about last night was how hungry he was to get back in the ring. I can't wait to fight this guy. I'm staying humble. I'm doing my training. And obviously he's just being very, as I said, very cliche. He's talking about, it'd be good to see him against Crawford. He's not really giving any outlandish opinions. He's not really offering anything, and I think that people are starting to see that more. I think that he is definitely being pushed out there as a people's champion, as this sort of idol for people to look at rather than for them to get interested in, and the personality of him might start to irk people.
I think he needs to, he's the Mr. Nice Guy, and he's, everyone likes him, but I think at some stage he's going to have to start moving away from that a bit, and we want to hear a bit of trash talking. If he wants to be like the guy who's popular, in America as well, and they want to see him, I think he needs a bit of that about him, because in the ring, he's got it. He's a spiteful guy who wants to hurt his opponents, knock him out, and I think a nice guy, that's fine, but I think sometimes you get the obvious idiots like Broner, but I just think a bit of trash talk is good for the sport as well. And as he moves up, I hope he does that. I mean, at the moment he's not fighting anyone really to even work up, but I'd like to see how he handles an opponent getting to him. I mean, Kevin Johnson will definitely talk the talk, and I want to see. It'll be interesting to see how Joshua reacts to him and what he says back to him, because Kevin Johnson will obviously talk a lot more than he'll punch.
I don't think Joshua will say much back, because again I think he's kept on a very tight leash at the moment. I think he's just out there to reel in the casuals. I mean, all he does on his Twitter is talk about Mike Tyson, Muhammad Ali, they're my heroes, they're my fans, and things like that. He doesn't really give any insight to what he feels and what he's doing, or his emotions, or his personality. He used to deal drugs. So what if he didn't just try to hide the fact that he did? I mean, embrace his flaws. He should embrace the fact that his gold medal wasn't perfect. He should embrace the fact that he got beat up a bit in the amateurs by Dillian White. I mean, the Dillian White question seems to be the elephant in the room with him, and he doesn't want to talk about it. He should definitely, I mean, he shouldn't go overboard. He shouldn't turn into a broner, like you said, but he definitely should have some personality and just look at David Hay, and he became largely famous to the public for being a right little arsehole. And, he packed it up in the ring, but no one wants to hear about a guy who's constantly saying, yeah, I'm just going to go do a bit more training, I'm out on Christmas Day, I'm going for a run. It's going to get boring.
The whole, I'm going back to do the pad work for 9 rounds, I mean, that just seems to me very corny, to be honest.
Well, that's it. That's it. Everything about him is corny. It's cliche. It's just trotted out because that's what people expect. You expect him to make Rocky references next.
So Alex, I just wonder if you're from maybe onto something there about what you're saying, that he's maybe been manufactured somewhat along the lines of Joe Lewis. You can't say this, you can't say that. You've got to be mindful of who you're with and stuff. I just wonder as well, Steve Bunce keeps going on every week on his podcast that they're trying to get Anthony Joshua back on the show and stuff, and they can't seem to get hold of him. I just wonder if he's been told that he's not to go on that show, just in case, the questions veer off, something like selling white, etc., that type of thing.
That's what I've wondered as well. I mean, I've not really heard of him being on any sort of podcast or any sort of live interview where he could be put in that situation, and I think that that there's a reason for that. Surely, you know what Hearn's like. He wants to get his fighters out everywhere. He wants to get him in front of everything. But he's kept a very tight leash on him, and he only lets him do certain interviews. Obviously, in front of Sky cameras and things like that. And I think he's being told what to say. I think that he's not being given free rein. I mean, maybe he is useless. Maybe he doesn't have a personality, and that's why Hearn's doing it. Or maybe he just is only wanting to portray a certain image.
I mean, yeah, you talk about Joel Lewis, and it's the same thing, but it's that was manufactured for a reason, because it was much to do with the times. He was the first black champion in, I think, since Jack Johnson, and there were certain guidelines that they knew to keep him on the good side. It's not right, but to keep him on the good side at the time, he had to do certain things. Couldn't be seen with white women like Jack Johnson was. Don't mock opponents like Jack Johnson. It's basically the opposite of Jack Johnson, who was the guy who did what he wanted when he wanted. And I don't understand why they would do that with Anthony Joshua. I mean, he might just be a nice guy, but like I said, as he develops and in better fights and bigger fights, and opponents are talking back, because if you look at Vladimir Klitschko, people say, he doesn't talk trash, he doesn't say anything, and he's a nice guy and everything, but people, that's been a criticism of him for certain people, especially American audience. They want their heavyweights to be, talking trash and, threatening and saying what they're going to do in the ring, and Klitschko's never really done that. And Anthony Joshua, it looks to be like the same kind of thing, but I'm not sure, if he wants to be big in America, I think he'll have to do more talking, to be honest.
Yeah, I think he'll need, especially for the American market. I mean, like Lennox Lewis always came across as a type of boring type of creature, didn't he? And I think it took a while for him to be fully respected in America as well. So yeah, I think at the end of the day, as well, as if he does get into the big fights, I really believe Joshua has got that spite about him. I think we saw it in his last fight. I think we kind of got an insight to his mindset. I think he said that after the fight, I wanted to damage him. I think that's probably the worst thing Joshua said since he turned pro, and to be honest, it's not even really all that bad actually. I mean, boxers they hurt each other, but that was him kind of deviating from the actual maybe the pre-planned script or whatever it was. But they hear that from him.
They took that and they rolled with that hugely. Like, that was all over sort of Twitter and social media and things. So like, oh my god, look at him, he's got a really bad streak, he's really nasty. And like you said, in context, it's not really that significant. He wanted to hurt his opponent. Yeah, that's half the point of boxing, isn't it?
Well,
I mean,
we're not asking for much. We're just asking him for him to, call someone a faggot, bite someone's leg, bite someone's ear off, and just, do drugs. just mix it up a bit.
Exactly.
Next
I mean,
question. On you.
No, I was just going to say, put it in context, it does seem we're being a bit harsh on him, but it's just a point that, we started noticing with him, especially last night when he was on the commentary. He just seemed so out of place there. He seemed awkward at times. He just felt like he was reading from, an auto cue. And, maybe it is just that is him, and we'll go in a bit over the top about it. But again, I like Anthony Joshua. We talk a lot of shit about him, but I do like him, and I hope he does succeed.
I don't think we're being overly negative on him or anything like that. I just think what you're saying is probably right. I never actually thought about what you said, that maybe he's been manufactured or what to say or taught or how to speak to basically the public and stuff. Because obviously, this is the golden egg, I think, for Matchroom. If he is manoeuvred properly through the heavyweight ranks, there's no bigger title than the heavyweight title. Usually, the guy who holds the heavyweight title is classed as the baddest man on the planet, basically. He is the man, basically. Nobody fucks with him.
Look, you can go two ways as well. You could be like a guy who talks trash and, he's arrogant, a bit like Nassim Hamed, or you can be someone who's like Ricky Hatton, who's loved by fans as the guy, the guy who's like one of us. He's a mate, and I think that's what they're trying to do with Joshua. And Hatton, obviously it worked for him. He had a huge fan base, and still does. So I think that's what they're looking for. We haven't had heavyweight champion who potentially like Joshua for years, and I think they're looking at, obviously they can see the pay-per-views and the money coming in, and obviously if he keeps winning, and he's a marketable person, he can do these shows on terrestrial TV, what Carl Froch was on, Tumble and all that rubbish, and he's the type of guy who can cross over, definitely.
Joshua's, I don't think he's anywhere near like a Hatton or anything, because he's not being portrayed as one of the lads or anything like that. He's being portrayed as this almost like Greek god sort of status, that he's constantly training, he's constantly living a sort of Spartan lifestyle of his hardcore training methods, and all he thinks about is beating his next opponent, and he's very hungry for success, but he's staying very humble as well. I mean, we never hear about him always going down the pub with his mates like Ricky's did. We heard about Hatton all the time. He's going down for a fucking full English breakfast or whatever, and how fat he got. He was literally a people's champion. He was down the pub straight after his fights and before his next fight. He was still in the pub a couple of weeks out probably, in Ricky. But we're not really seeing that from Joshua. All we're seeing from him is he's training hard and he's got big muscles and he's bloody massive and he's going to knock everyone out.
Yeah, I was just going to add, Andy, I think you hit the nail on the head there. That they are manufacturing the media thing. I'm sure they've sat him down and told him what to say on the telly and whatever, and they've chosen this sort of persona for him. But what you say is exactly right. This is the golden goose. They've got to sort of be careful. Everything will be fine-tuned. This is different from anything else, as in even the likes of Froch and all the other big stars. This is like the heavyweight championship of the world. It's the thing that, even non-boxing fans sort of know about or take an interest in. They have a real possibility here to make an awful lot of money and build a massive superstar. So they're going to be looking at every little tiny little factor of this, because that he's a young guy, he's a good physical specimen. He seems to have the tools in the ring at the moment. They're playing to all different parts of the market, the casuals and the hardcores. So they're going to make sure they do this right, because if they pull this off, it is going to be, it could be absolutely huge. They could have like the heavyweight champion of the world. So they are looking at every little thing regarding Joshua.
I'm definitely expecting a 5-book autobiography deal coming out soon. The journey, a bit like Wayne Rooney. That's going to be happening soon as well. They've got it all planned. As you said, the money potentially is massive, and as long as he can keep backing it up in the ring, I think he's going to net Matchroom a lot of money, and he's going to do well for himself as well.
Well, here, Kurt, talking of autobiographies, I picked up a copy of Living the Dream, the Audley Harrison autobiography in Poundland the other day. No, that's true, it was in Poundland.
Poundland. Kurt got it when it first came out. He actually got it signed and he even asked for Audley Spunks to be put in one of the pages.
Some kind person probably paid £20 for that and donated it so someone like Steve could pick it up and enjoy it. I say, well done.
This one's for Alex. I think this one's about Alex. This is from Ben Shield. Now, I woke up this morning, phone blinking away, Twitter's gone mental last night, and I seen this comment between Alex and one Mr. Coogan Cassius. The question is from Ben Shield. Why is Coogie Bear Cassius such an insecure, sensitive little soul? Alex, what happened last night?
Nothing really happened, really. I mean, I was giving Fight Pass a slight slating earlier in the day, and I woke
no
up.
Abuse. There was no abuse involved. No fucking.
No, I made a very flippant.
Nobody was
comment.
a cock or anything like that. Nobody was a cunt or nothing like that. No.
No. I mean, I made a very flippant comment that Kurt's repeated today about the Oscar-winning Coogan Cassius show being on Fight Pass, and I wake up to a tweet. In the morning, this morning, about 5 o'clock when I woke up, Coogan Cassius, having a pop at me or whatever, saying, or I should say it to his face, blah, blah, blah. He says this at 2 o'clock in the morning after he's obviously searched his own name on Twitter, just to seek these criticisms out. And I think, it's just wasn't anything, was it? I mean, if he got half the stick that, the likes of Hearn get, or Warren, or Frotch, or Bellew, he'd be in a very sad little world at the moment. So,
It's like us, we don't search out the Nuthouse podcast because we don't see the terrible things that people are saying about us.
I've seen articles, I've seen videos of, criticisms of us, especially that Hearn interview that we've had. I've seen a couple of comments and videos, and people calling us knobheads, people calling us pricks, haters, all this, and I didn't go up and bloody start having a go at every single one of them. And I know people, I know that we irk a lot of people, I know that we upset a lot of people, and people are going to call us pricks, people are going to call us all sorts of names. It's the internet, and should just get over it.
Internet's a very, very dangerous place sometimes. Just on that topic of the Eddie Hearn stuff, I remember watching some videos and stuff as well. I think that some people were kind of jumping on the hardcore element and stuff. I mean, when I read some of the comments and stuff as well, I mean, people were, I think some people said we nailed it, some people said it was fucking excellent. But, you can't, we're not here to please everyone, some people will disagree with what we say, we maybe take over the top sometimes and stuff. It's just the way it is, new age media, so to speak. But that being the case.
But I think, to more pressing matters, that means Alex has now got Coogan Cassius and Tony Bellew after him now. I mean, they're two big guys. I'd sleep one eye open if I was him.
Yeah, I was just thinking actually, Alex, when I seen that.
He's going to have a horse's head tomorrow morning in his bed.
When I seen that comment from Coogan to you, Alex, I kind of said to myself, yep, he's been hanging around Tony Bellew too long, I think. But to be honest, listen, I know Coogan Cassius gets a lot of hate as well. I see some of it on the forum stuff. I've actually got no problem with the guy, actually. I mean, if it wasn't for him and James Hilder, we wouldn't really get some of the insight interviews and stuff. Some people tend to think it maybe kind of veers off track into a kind of jokey type situation and stuff, and it's mainly about him and stuff.
Yeah, I mean,
Coogan, if you're listening, mate, I have no problem with you. Alex has got listen, we've not got any problem with you whatsoever. We call a spade, and if people call us haters, wankers, pricks, cunt muscles and stuff like that, then so be it. Listen, publicity is good. Negative or positive doesn't really matter to us, We're not here to get paid for this shit.
Exactly. I mean, I wasn't, I was having a pop, I was having a joke. I mean, I'm not backtracking on it. I think his show's awful, but again, what's the problem? I think he's taking it far too seriously. It's, as we said before, it's Twitter, it's the internet. Get over it.
I mean, I see a comment on the Mixer chat basically saying the thing is, you guys were sucking him off when he was on the podcast. Were we? Did we come across as saying, like, listen, Coogan, how's your girth, basically, come on, man. Listen, at the end of the day as well, the guy come on here, and we say this, everybody that comes on this show gets a fair shake. We're not here to kind of get someone on the show, then absolutely slate the guy and verbally abuse him, call him all sorts of names and stuff like that. That's just being complete and utter tossers. He came on the show, he got a fair shake of the whip, and basically, as we put some questions to him, You know, and to be honest as well, is he couldn't answer everything that we wanted answers for, because only Eddie Hearn could answer some of those questions. That's just the way it is.
It's the same with Eddie Hearn now. I mean, people will say we're Eddie Hearn haters, but, you know, in fact, we got a lot of respect for Eddie for coming on the show, because we know for a fact that other promoters wouldn't do it. You know, certain British promoters would never do it. Eddie came on, we gave him a lot of respect, and we talked, before and after, when he had to keep firing up because he farms, and he was fine. And it's the same with Coogan, he came on to talk, and no problem at all. And so it's, sometimes people can be critical of things, and that people take it a bit, personally. But just because you say something about a show or about a video, it doesn't mean you're against that person at all. I mean, I think everyone is appreciative of what I Film London do. I mean, I watch their videos, and they get all the interviews, and I think most of them are really good.
Absolutely right. Absolutely
well,
right.
As it says, Alex's comment was more kind of tongue-in-cheek, a bit of a laugh, a bit of a joke or whatever. Some people are kind of sensitive to that type of thing, I suppose. But hey ho, as I say as well. Listen, we haven't slated Coogan Cassius on the show because when he came on the show, simple fact is, when he came on the show, it took bollocks. It took, we respect that. It seemed like Eddie Hearn as well. We gave Eddie Hearn a hard time, but at the same time as well as we had a bit of a laugh, a bit of a joke. That's the way it should be. Just come in, just get them on the show and say, listen, you are a complete and utter cunt because you don't do this, you can't say that, you didn't ask the right question. And it's just, that's not right, it's not fair. If we see something, even if he's not on the show, we see something getting said or whatever, then we'll maybe mention it if it's maybe brought to our attention or maybe deserves some light or whatever. But just to say this, we're ripping into the guy's show and stuff like that. That wasn't the case. Well, certainly wasn't the case from our end anyway. And Alex is basically said as well, it was a tongue-in-cheek comment, and I think someone actually backed you up on that one, Alex.
Yeah, I mean, it was, like I said, it was just a flippant comment, having a go at Fight Pass.
Yeah, I mean, what you said on Twitter was just a joke. I mean, all the shit he says about Coogan in this chat that no one else sees, now that is not a joke, but I'm not going to go there.
Well, yeah, but I mean, I'll post that up later if everyone wants to see it, but...
What's that? Post it up in the Skype chat so I can see it. Anyways, next question. Chad Hogan. Steve, this is your mate.
Chad, how are you?
Still ducking.
Still ducking the show.
Come on, Chad, come on.
Still ducking.
Did Mitchell win the linear belt last night?
The linear belt?
Yeah.
Is this the unofficial linear belt?
You're going to have to explain this one to me.
Yeah, I don't know either, mate. I don't know
Johnny
either.
Nelson, when talking about Mitchell, he was talking to Joshua and he says, I can't remember exactly how he said it. He said something like, can we call Kevin Mitchell an unofficial world champion now? I think that's what he said. So I think that's what the comment's about.
Oh, God.
Johnny with his drawn-on beard. He looked like someone had drawn a beard on him, didn't they? What was that all about? Well, no, he's the lineal champion. I don't know. I suppose these days he could call himself a world champion. There's people been called world champions for less than winning the belt he won last night. So, yeah, why not, man? Kevin Mitchell, world champion.
There we go. Britain's got another world champion. Is that a real one, though? It's not a fake title, is it?
That belt that he got, it just reminded of when you get a present and it's like, jewellery and you expect it to be a gold ring and it's a silver ring. I mean, it just doesn't look good, does it?
Certainly not, mate. Bobby Hunter's asking, this is the Fight Score collector, as I say, Bobby's got does a piece for the Boxing News, so basically follow Bobby at the Fight Score because he'll be looking for fight scores for fights and stuff for some of the fights he covers for Boxing News, etc. He's asking, I think we kind of covered this one slightly though, but was Phil Edwards' stoppage of Godoy in the Ryder fight a bad one?
There's been worse, I think. To be honest, I was glad to see the back of that fight, so I wasn't really that worried, like.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people had the same sort of attitude. I think that the fight was so awful that you sort of excused it. I mean, if you put it as an isolated incident, yeah, it was premature. He was up, he was ready to fight, but you won't see many people crying about it.
Right. What next? I'll take this question from Luke O'Reilly. What next for Daniel Gale? And do we think the WBA, WBC and IBF will consolidate the champions into each weight class? Well, on Daniel Gale, he's mentioned that his manager is actually in the process, is it Bill Tracy his name is? He is in the process of getting some fights lined up, but he can't give the details for whatever reason that we don't know. But he is basically looking at a potential fight, I think, with either Sergio Mora or the winner of the Lee Peter Quillen fight. And as on the consolidation of the world titles, I think the WBC are pushing this really heavily. I'm surprised the WBO never got involved. I really think the WBC are really, as I say, they're trying to force fighter A, fighter B into it. They are basically mandated Kovalev and Stevens. The winner of Kovalev Pascal to face Stevenson next, even though Kovalev holds 3 belts with other organisations. So I think it's a really good move what they're trying to do there. So yeah, I think they are being quite legit on that one anyway, especially that these 3 organisations, the 3 oldest ones anyway, are actually kind of meeting pretty regularly on this topic. Kurt, if Anthony Fowler, Paul's asking, if Anthony Fowler turned pro tomorrow, how many rounds would he take to stop Triple G? I tell you, that cut opened up again in the WBSB on Friday night, actually, pretty bad.
Yeah, he looked a complete mess, didn't he?
Yeah.
Bryce didn't heal up straight away, since he is known as the Wolverine.
That's what I was going to say, actually, because Marcus Bellinger's actually, sorry Kurt, I'll just bring you back in there now. Marcus Bellinger, next question, stating for the pod, the most ill-fit nicknames, Wolverine.
Yeah, this is part of, I don't know if you saw Anthony Fowler's blog recently. It's probably the most hilarious thing you'll ever read.
He's a bit of a character, isn't he?
He's a little bit of a character. He is Frotch and Bellew and Khan all rolled into one at the moment. Kid's not even really done anything at amateur level. He's still going. He's won. I think he won bronze at the world championships in 2013. He's obviously going for Rio 2016. He's doing alright. I think he's quite highly ranked. He's obviously very talented, but the ego on him is astronomical. You read his little bio page on his blog, it's absolutely horrific. He talks about how his Instagram and his Twitter followers call him the Wolverine because of how easily his cuts heal up. He talks about how he doesn't need painkillers when he's got a cut because he's that hard. He talks about all these philosophical, just absolute nonsense. He talks, just go read his Twitter and it's hysterical. He will take over the Bellew of the Week prize, hands down.
He reminds me a bit in what he says with that other weirdo, Romeo, whatever his name is. The way he acts, and he thinks he's fantastic, doesn't he? So strange.
He's very odd. I mean, he looks alright. He looks very powerful. I remember one segment. This is going to be brought up in Bellew of the Week. In his bio, he says that lots of journals and analysts predict that Anthony will take over Carl Froch as being the greatest British fighter of all time.
Oh, it's interesting.
He's and as I said, Fowler's won pretty much nothing. Yeah, I mean, he's already basically saying, he's going to win the gold medal at Rio. I mean, that's a certainty, obviously. And you've really just got to read his stuff to believe it. It's absolutely insane.
I just wonder, actually, I thought he kind of tired slightly in that fight from Friday night. I just wonder if maybe he's a lot of pressure on him, actually. He's got to keep winning these fights because I think he wants to try and get as many as possible in order to try and get automatic qualification. I was reading something about his schedule there recently, but it's a lot of fights he's got to kind of push in.
Oh yeah, he's this is the thing with him. He's a very hard worker. He's obviously really into his boxing and really trains hard, and he's a good little fighter. But he's an insufferable arsehole.
Who does he
really
box
is.
for in the WB?
British Lionhearts, mate.
All right.
They were in, is it Morocco? I think they were in Morocco on Friday night there. Chad Hogan again, Steve. He's asked the question. Regardless of what Nas won, do you think he underachieved considering how talented he was? In my opinion, he didn't start. If he didn't start enjoying food and the minge, he'd have beaten 3 Mexicans.
Food and the minge, man. That's
that's a nasty combination. It draws us all in.
That's what happens to us all.
You know what my granddad used to tell me when I was growing up trying to be a football player and stuff like that. He used to say to me, listen son, women weaken legs, but remember, if you want to be a professional football player, you won't make it because it's a lure of the puss. Lure of the puss is a bad thing, son.
I think in terms of Naz, I think he's right in what he says that he underachieved, but I also think that is a big compliment. Despite all he did, he beat everyone, all the title holders at the time. He practically had all 4 bouts, and I think he had about 18 world title fights, won most of them by knockout. Huge star, went to America, became a star there, brought money to the division, to the lower divisions again. Despite all that, I still think we can say, yeah, he did probably underachieve, which to me is a massive compliment to him, because a bit like we talked about earlier with Kevin Mitchell, I think dedication, once the money started rolling in, dedication waned, and when you got one of the most respected trainers of all time, Emmanuel Stewart, talking and saying, we couldn't get him to just do simple road work. And I think, by the time, the last couple of years, I think Naz was past it physically, he was still in his prime, but a bit like Tyson, I think his prime was very short due to outside influences, which is a shame, but yeah, I'd say underachieved with the talent that he had.
I always thought he was a bit over-reliant on his power, and he admitted as much. I don't know if any of you listened to that interview that he did with the Boxing News podcast this week, actually, with Matt Christie.
You listen to other podcasts, Steve?
Sorry?
You listen to other podcasts?
Pardon?
Yes.
Get him off. Get him off right now.
Well, somebody was telling me about it, actually. I must go and listen to that one later, but apparently he was they went through his career. But it was actually a really interesting listen. They went through his career and they're talking about the Hall of Fame and whatever, and why the Juan Manuel Marquez fight didn't happen. And he said there was, I think he said that there was, because Marquez wasn't really, the star he was back then that he is now, and blah blah blah, and why he didn't fight Acelino Freitas, and he made a few excuses. He said he was completely weight drained for the Barrera fight, and he was absolutely I remember at the time, he was boiling himself right down to the weight, and he was going to say no to fight, but then they offered him basically sort of primetime heavyweight money to fight, and he took the money and ran. But I'm not sure whether he underachieved or not, but we all know that he was a really exciting fighter, had a lot of great fights, and he sort of brought the razzmatazz to boxing. He spoke very highly of Frank Warren as well, and for giving him the original shot against Steve Robinson. And whether he underachieved or not, he certainly got out with his everything intact, and he made a fair few quid, and seems to have done all right for himself. But I must listen to that podcast actually later, see what it was all about.
I tell you, anybody want to read a funny story on Naz and his bullying antics stuff, read Joe Calzaghe's book about something in the car with Carl Thompson and
Carl Thompson, yeah.
That was fucking funny. Apparently he was taking the piss out of him. He says to him something like, says, "Listen, you wee cunt, I'll pull you up with the fucking ears and slap the taste out your mouth," or something along those lines. It was fucking hilarious reading.
You wouldn't
that,
mess
actually.
with Thompson though, would you?
No. But apparently there was stories that he used to bully a young Junior Witter as well in sparring. Naz had that he used to like to humiliate guys in the gym, That's a lot of people disliked him for it, but apparently, yeah, he used to like doing that to Junior Witter as well. And I think Steve made the point. He definitely fell in love with his power, and that's why the lack of training. He believed that I don't have to train as hard as other people, because when I hit you, you're gone. And to his credit, that was the case of most of his fights. But to go in a fight against someone like Barrera, thinking that is just ridiculous.
Our very own Dave the Hater's asking, Prime Leonard against Prime Floyd, who wins and how does it play out?
Leonard on points for me.
Trying to think, I was just going to say that, but I was actually going to lay reference to the Benitez fight. Obviously Benitez was a great defensive technician, but then I get the argument side of that fight as well was the rumour was that Benitez only apparently trained a week for that fight. It was just to make weight, and Leonard took 14 rounds to get rid of him. So I'd probably say Leonard would probably beat him on points.
I just think you're looking at a fight like this. Floyd's facing a guy who can do everything he can do. But, he's also Leonard's bigger than him. Leonard can also punch quite a bit as well. And Leonard was also even though he's not like a pretty boy type, he could tough you out as well. And I just think that's the thing. Floyd is facing, in my opinion, a better version of himself.
Who else we got? Thomas T. Smith. If Regal looked outside Super Bantams to fight, would the panel prefer him to move to fight the top bantamweights or the featherweights. Well, I think we discussed at the first show back in the new year that, you know, that last fight that he fought, you know, I think that proved that he should not be fighting anywhere near at featherweight. If anything, he needs to move down to bantamweight. He eats himself into super bantamweight, and if he was going to move down, I would want to see him in with the likes of Yamanaka. I don't know really about, Kameda. I really don't know about Paul Butler, but or Jimmy McDonald for that matter. But I would like to see him maybe fight. What's his name again? That other Japanese kid, the 19-year-old going. Kyle was here, but his name is Risuku Iwasha or something like his name is. He was a 19-year-old that he won the Japanese title recently as well. He's an all-action fighter, and he was ever going to move up in weight. Maybe Siriskit Soringiveze. He's a super flyweight. Maybe he can meet him up at a catch weight or something like that. I don't know. So next question. I've got two questions from the real Shep. We better get this right. You know, in the usual manner. What a truly fantastic event that was last night. Will only work wonders for exposing fancy dress to the general public. With Nacho Beristain opting for a comedy glass nose moustache disguise, Marquez's Ali G, post-fight Taylor Goodjohn as an extra from The Walking Dead, and two Warrior hardcore fans who know they're boxing and paid for their tickets dressed up as blokes from EastEnders, hair looking like prime Ted Bundy, and Ricky Boylan's effort as pretending to be a boxer. Where does New Age promoting take us next? Next question, he says, what the fuck was Max Brannan playing that last night? Could his EastEnders salary not afford a babysitter? Keeping a 7-year-old in that sort of raucous environment with a load of pissed up men, whilst the poor nipper desperately tries to keep or to get some sleep and maintain at least some form of routine in his life. Why not leave a child at that age at home? As it's Max Brannan, he could addict the wee tart babysitter. Basically, what the fuck was Max playing at? Please can the panel rank his parenting on a scale of McCann's to Joseph Fritzl?
Yeah, I'm going to show my ignorance here, right, but I'm just going to come out with it. Who the friggin' hell is Max Branning? Am I under
Steve
a rock
pretending
or
he doesn't
something?
watch EastEnders. It's a good disguise, Steve,
Listen,
but you watch it.
That is something that I would never, ever, ever watch. Is that what he's out of?
Max Brannan is a skinny, bald man with tufts of ginger hair who just shags every woman on EastEnders.
Right.
And he's apparently a huge boxing fan and always seems to get ringside tickets to Eddie's London shows or the big pay-per-view shows.
Oh, okay, fair enough. No,
he gets put on.
But not EastEnders.
He gets put on ringside as like the celebrity, along with Danny Dyer as like a celebrity voice who apparently loves boxing.
Okay.
Fritzl's or McCann's, though. I mean, you got to say at least Fritzl kept a roof over head for 25 years.
Oh God. Fucking hell. On that note, it's time to move on to Bellew of the Week segment. I'd like to thank all the guys again for the Twitter questions, etc. and Shep for his usual mannerisms and how he puts it across. So upcoming next is our world-renowned and well-respected Bellew of the Week award.
I wasn't ready for it then, keep talking a minute.
If I keep talking to you, then the fucking the tune will start playing, you know, so.
Yeah, I got it now, right. I'm ready now.
Fire away. Ian got BN Sports fucking advertising on our Mixler page now.
Okay, what's the value?
Now we can do it now, you fucking rat!
Okay, what's the value of the week?
Everyone knows what the Bellew of the Week award is, and this week I've actually only got 2 nominations this week, guys. Now the first one goes to Eddie Hearn. Obviously with him signing Frankie Gavin, Eddie Hearn mentioned he's going to be looking to building Kilbrook versus Frankie Gavin into a massive pay-per-view fight. And CG Ross, she is still adamant that Floyd Mayweather and Canelo Alvarez was a draw, and she says, I was asked why my score could have gone to a draw, but it just has to be one fighter ending up with 6 rounds. When you think of it in terms of 6 rounds, and then the nearest other judge had it 8 rounds to 4, we weren't all that far off. It was an even fight. A lot of those rounds were even. They just swung back and forth. I think there's a big difference between these fighters and their styles, and the power that Alvarez has and the strength. him being so much younger than Mayweather, it may have made a difference in what I saw. It was right for what I saw. It may not have been right to what the other two judges saw, but it was right to what I saw. Listen, sweetheart, what the fuck did Alvarez land in that fight? Hee-haw.
You just think, why don't you just come out and just say, yeah, I made a mistake, I'm getting on, I had a bad night, everyone has them. You can say, well, you know what, fair play, everyone's made a mistake, and everyone but to still persist with this, you're getting no respect. People are just laughing at it now and just saying, you made a mistake, you just forget about it. But to try and explain it, oh, this judge had this judge had that, or that fight wasn't close to all. You could be the biggest Mayweather hater in the world. That fight was not close. Canelo knew the fight wasn't close, and all his team knew it, and all the Mexicans knew.
Yeah. Now, we've actually got one with another evening with Eddie Hearn. Now, I don't know who we're going to give it to, Alex, or who the nomination is for this one, but I think you've got the fight poster there.
Yeah, I mean, let's have a read of it. Relentless Promotions presents Hilton Newcastle Gateshead, an evening with Eddie Hearn. Meet Eddie Hearn at the Northeast Premier venue. All tickets include 2-course meal and free glass of wine at table. 2-course meal only £40. 2-course meal and photo £100. Meet and greet Eddie in VIP suite. Autograph opportunities and photo limited to only 20 people. £200. Tickets via www.reefpromotions.com.
Fucking £60 for a photograph.
I honestly
£60 for a photograph.
honestly thought that someone who hated Eddie Hearn had made this up and made the poster in Photoshop just to take the piss out of him. And when I heard it was real, I just think that's outrageous.
Who's Relentless Promotions?
Never heard of them. Apparently they do a lot of these
Yeah, didn't David Haye got there?
Yeah, they do. I think a lot of boxers do speaking events or an evening with events with them. But apparently they're also doing promoters as well. So
yeah, I've heard of them. I wonder who's behind. Someone's behind them. I can't remember where I've read about them before. Just wondering.
Yeah, their nominations kind of thin this week. Actually, obviously there's been no much action. The news has been pretty sparse as well.
Just seeing if anyone in the chat has got any nominations as well for us.
I don't want to really lay it on Hearn, but I seem to remember him talking about Marquez was over here to discuss a fight with Kell Brook or something, but then Marquez comes out and says that he's not here to discuss the fight with Kell Brook.
I seen a newspaper actually carrying that same story actually as well. I forget who it was that actually wrote it, but it's again a very, very thin and list this week, guys. Should we just vacate the title this week?
I think we should. If we're going to vacate it, I think we should definitely move these on to next week though, because that Hearn one is a good one. The poster.
Anthony Fowler as well, calling himself Wolverine. I thought it was hilarious. And a recent tweet that he just said, actually, that people have been discussing while we've been on air. Someone asked him why he didn't use painkillers for his cut that he recently got at the WSB, and he said that he's in a third world country. He's in Morocco.
I think
a developed country.
I think we've also got to mention Anthony Joshua for his recommendation of a fight. You wouldn't want him for a matchmaker, saying Kevin Mitchell should go in with Terence Crawford.
Absolutely. I mean, my vote purely goes to the evening with Eddie Hearn. I mean, I would happily give that the award, but it's up to you, obviously, Andy.
Yeah, to be honest, we've got hands up then. Basically, Cup should be vacated this week. We'll move on to next week.
Yeah, I think Eddie Hearn is going to be a strong contender with that one, no matter what. Unless Tony comes out with one, or maybe Frotch, I think that's going to be a tough one.
You can make Eddie the interim champion until next week.
See, I didn't want to start doing this WBA stuff, This is a prestigious award we're talking about here. We just didn't hand this out willy-nilly to anyone, We didn't want to start creating biggest WBA titles and stuff,
I think no matter how good it is, you need a good field to be to contend it, and Eddie's not really got much in terms of rivals here, so let's see what we got next week.
Yeah, it's a bit like the heavyweight division this week, Clutch goes on top, and there's only one, there's no really any worthy challenger around the corner ready to challenge him yet, or want to challenge him, basically. Which is vacated this week. Sorry, our listeners, as we didn't really want to, hand it out. As you know, we need a strong field, so we're just going to have a vacant title this week. So being the case, on the discussion now, what we're running at just now, I think we're running at 1 hour 40 minutes, so we've got 20 minutes, guys, to discuss our topics, what we mentioned last week. Now, the first one was a discussion of a fun, entertaining fight that has gone under the radar. Now, we had sort of a few of our listeners come in with some nominations as well. C. Will come in with Alex Arthur versus Michael Gomez. Great fight, shit out.
That was a good fight.
It was a good fight. Arthur just couldn't defend the left hook all night. Danny Robson says Spencer Fearon versus David Walker. I never got a chance to check out the outcome of that fight, but I think did Fearon not get knocked out in that fight? I think.
Great shout, yeah, that was on BBC. I remember that
Yeah.
one. Didn't Walker get knocked down like at the end of the first, and then again at the end of the second, and then he knocked out Fearon like in the third or fourth? Was it something like that?
Yeah, something like that. I remember something along those lines. Mickey D saying Frampton against Turley. And Grand Theft Shape. This is the fake Shape. This isn't your Shape.
Oh.
All of Wilfredo Benitez fights against Leonard, Hearns, etc. Very underrated. See his fight. Who's the Mexican he fought? Palomino. That was a good fight as well, actually. Carlos Palomino. That was a really good fight. So guys, I've got a couple actually, but I'll let you fire away first if you've got anything kicking around there.
I've got a couple, but one just came to my head actually, just you mentioning there, Edwin Valero against Mosquera when he won the WBA title, I think it was. Do you remember that one? That was a good fight. I think Valero got knocked down actually early on, and then it was a bit of a slugfest before he knocked out Mosquera in like the 10th round. But that was one that just come into my head actually.
That was when he went a few rounds for the first time, didn't he? Then I think that was his first time.
He'd knocked everyone out in the first round, hadn't he? And then he went into the second round. It was against Trezancos, I think, the Mexican, and then he had a couple more, and then he fought Mosquera. But that was a good under the radar fight back in the days when you could never get hold of the fights to watch them. Anyway, excuse me. Yeah, I've got a couple written down here. A funny one from a few years ago that came into my mind was Randall Bailey against Zaidu Ali. Did you see that one?
No.
I think it was some kind of an eliminator or something in Belgium. I think it took place. It was before Bailey knocked out Mike Jones, and it was a pretty run-of-the-mill stuff. And then about halfway through, they ended up in a clinch, and Bailey sort of picked up Ali
threw him over the top rope.
Walked across the ring, and then threw him over the top rope.
I remember that. I think Mayweather was actually in attendance that night. I think because it was it was like a scene out of the Royal Rumble, was it not? He just picked him up and fucking body slammed him out the ring.
Well, he couldn't carry on. I think they're stretching him off, and the fight ended in a no contest.
That's right. I did see that.
That was a good one. And then another one that always sticks to me. I think it was actually shown over here on ITV4 back in the good old days when you would have sort of set your video on long play overnight and then watched it the next morning. Jose Gonzalez against Julian Letterlow, Mr. KO.
All right, aye.
If you remember this one, it was a cruiserweight fight.
I remember Letterlow. I remember him.
Yeah, Letterlow was really exciting. He fought Girov, but this one was back in 2001. And I was looking up on Boxrec earlier actually, it was for the vacant IBA Continental America's light heavyweight title or something like that, which is a complete bullshit title, but Gonzalez was down 3 times according to Boxrec, Letterlow was down twice. It was just a really exciting fight, a real great slugfest. And Gonzalez, if I'm remembering the same Gonzalez, he went on to fight Clinton Woods, I think whenever Woods won the IBF title, was it around 2004, 2005? And as for poor old Letterlow, he got shot dead in 2005. So it was a bit tragic end for him, but great fun, under the radar fun fight. If you get a chance to watch that one, Gonzalez against Letterlow, great fight.
Kurt, what you got, mate?
Yeah, I was speaking off air before the show, but this one is Rene Ganoy against Fatai Onikiki. It's an Australian fight from 2006, I believe. Now, these are not world-class fighters, but I suggest, if you need half an hour, you got nothing to do, stick these on YouTube. I mean, it's just pure fun, entertaining. It's just, both guys giving it their all, and it is a really fun fight. The other one that I believe this was, I don't know if this was recognised as a fight of the year, but maybe not people have, have forgotten about it, but Caveman Lee fought Marvin Hagler
Oh, aye,
for the middleweight titles. He got knocked out in the first round.
Bill Caveman Lee, yeah.
He fought John Cicero, I think, a couple of years before then, and that I think that was a 5-round fight, but that was just a war basically, and that was just pure entertainment from both guys. And them two fights for me, I mean, as for Under the Radar, I mean, it's hard to think off the top of your head, you know, anything from Matthew Saad Muhammad is, you know, things like that. I mean, trying to think of other ones.
I've got a couple here.
Carl Thompson as well. Carl Thompson. He's up.
Sellers.
Yeah, great fight.
I mean, I think him getting beaten that fight actually torpedoed the rematch he was planning for with Johnny Nelson, did it not? I'm sure.
Yeah, because Nelson was the WBO champion at the time, wasn't he?
Yeah. I've got a couple, and I don't know if Alex is back yet, so I'll let you think as to what other ones you've got there. Send me on that Australian one that you were talking about, though. Now, some guys are maybe... two of these ones I'm going to mention that you need to go and watch these one that's fucking insane. Now, this one was actually, I believe, the inaugural WBA, I think it was. I think it was it? Wait, no, to find it out. What is it? First round knockout. Give me a second, sorry about this.
I was just saying, actually, Andy, while you're looking for that in the chat to Kurt, I urge people as well to look out that William Lee John Cicero fight. It's a brilliant fight.
So I found it. It was WBC flyweight title fight. It was in Mexico, and it was Antonio Avila, I think it was a champion, against Producio. Did I pronounce his name? Producio. Fuck, where's the name again? Producio Cardona, right? So basically, it's a first round blowout, but both were kind of like boxing. It was the first round, and Cardona started an assault. And he finally caught Avila with there was a sweet left hand and he knocked him out standing up. And Avila actually fell down like a fucking tree. It had just been chopped, just in a slow motion, face first. He landed smack bang in the fucking canvas. Didn't even move. That's how heavy the left hand was. This one I think was a Friday night fights card. John Revish against Leo Lizarraga. Now Lizarraga, he scores a knockdown. I think we're basically having a shootout. Basically, Revish went down a second time, a minute left in the round, and he was just starting to get back into it. Now Lizarraga, he's clearly the boss in the fight at this point, right? But as he gets way too confident, he gets clipped with a left hook. As Revish rolls under his right hand and catches the left hook, just knocks him spark out. Derek Roddy against Ricardo Kennedy. Now, I think these guys were cruiserweights, heavyweights. This actually had the three knockdown rule involved in it actually, and referee Cappuccino, who actually refereed the first fight between Arturo Gatti and Mickey Ward, actually made a mistake. So actually after the third knockdown, he actually allowed him to kind of continue until a fourth knockdown happened. And my last one goes to this one is another classic, Su Wan Hong against Hector Carrasquilla. Now this is a 3-round war. First round was basically kind of inside exchanges from Hong. Then round 2, Carrasquilla just basically gets inside, drops Hong with a short left hook. Hong gets up, comes straight back at him again, and Hong goes down again with another attack. He's dropped for a third time. He barely hangs on, I think he gets dropped a fourth time actually. He basically is allowed to continue. He doesn't look to hold, tries to fight his way out of trouble, but he's in real big bother. He's got the hands up, etc., and he finally gets into the third round. Now I don't know if he had what do you call him, Panama Lewis in his corner, because he came out in that third round like a man possessed. And he fucking Hong ended Carrasquilla in the third round after getting dropped 4 times in the previous round, comes back in the third and stops him. That was for the inaugural WBA Super Bantamweight fight. So that's Su Wan Hong against Hector Carrasquilla, and I will post that up for anyone who wants to see it. Absolute fucking brilliant fight that. Alex, you back? No, he must. I think Coogan Cassius has got a hold of him. I think
it's got him in the trunk.
It's got him in the
trunk.
Alex, what
about? I mean, I thought it's not really under the radar, but maybe if people who are just getting into boxing won't have heard of it. The Battle of the Z Boys, the Carlos Zarate fight with Zamora. That was in, I think it was California. That was from. That was just a crazy fight as well. I mean, that was just a war. That was. I have to check it out on BoxRec, like what year it was and everything to fight. But that was. I remember Steve Bunce did an article on it as well, and it's just a crazy must-see fight as well.
The what do you call it? Oh, I fucking forgot what I was just going to say there. Actually, I was just kind of looking at that video you sent me there, Kurt. Right, for me, Alex here, then I'll just posting that fight up into the Mixler chat for the guys that fight I was just talking about there. Next topic, favourite rivalries. Now, guys, when I asked this question to people on Twitter and stuff, it was like everyone seemed to kind of come back with the same answer. What do you think it was?
Holyfield Ruiz.
No.
Ben Eubank.
Ben Eubank. C. Will says he's going to be Ben Eubank. Danny Robson says Morales Barrera. Mickey D says Barrera Morales. And Grand Theft Shep says Duran and Leonard by a mile. My personal favourite has got to be because it just transcended the sport. It went into politics, it went into religion, it went into race. It was just unbelievable. And then the way they ended their trilogy, it was just epic. One of the greatest fights of all time. Muhammad Ali and Joe Frazier. I think that's going to take some surpassing that rivalry.
It's like weird with rivalries because you can think of some fights where they had 2 or 3 fights, or you can think of sometimes where there's a rivalry and they only had 1 fight, but the build up, the bad blood, something like Wilfredo Gomez, Salvador Sanchez, where the rivalry there was such bad blood in the build up, yet they only had 1 fight and it was such a mega fight. But a bit like hey Klitschko, the fight was a dud, but the actual build up for like 3 or 4 years, that was a good rivalry and it really put a lot of focus on the heavyweight division, and boxing fans were picking a side, in that fight as well.
I went with the Barrera Morales rivalry. There were great fights in the ring, but just out the ring there was just a real genuine hatred between the two of them. They just did not like each other, and there was varying stories going around. Even before, when I was sort of looking up on the internet and researching it, there was all these different stories about why they didn't like each other. Now I remember Ian Darke at the time, he always said it was because I think Morales grew up in sort of poverty in the slums of Tijuana or something, whereas Barrera was from an upper class family and he trained in law and as a barrister or something, but that was maybe the foundation of the hatred. I'm not exactly certain, but it was just there was a real dislike for each other, and neither of them liked Juan Manuel Marquez either. Maybe it was just a Mexican machismo thing, but I just really enjoyed the fight scene as well. And obviously the first one was the Ring Magazine Fight of the Year in 2000, and the second one was then more of the chess match where Barrera sort of boxed on the back foot and surprised everybody. And then the third one again was another fight of the year, I think maybe Ring Fight of the Year as well. Just a superb rivalry, and I actually met Barrera in I think it was 2003. I was over for the Hopkins De La Hoya fight, and outside the MGM Grand, stand out at back door was little Barrera on his own with his manager, so I went over to him to try and get his autograph, and he didn't speak a word of English. He not long after beating Nassim Hamed, and sort of joked about Hamed, and he gave me a wry smile, but I remember having to go over to try and find a pen to try and get his autograph, and there was this big group of women from like Tennessee Baptist Choir or something. had to go over and borrow a pen from one of them to go and get his autograph. But anyway, that's just a stupid little anecdote. Barrera Morales is a great rivalry, so that's my choice.
And also, speaking of Marquez, obviously the Pacquiao rivalry as well, which has gone on, and still, people still want to see another fight. You're also looking back as well, Jake LaMotta against Sugar Ray Robinson. Was it 6 times they fought as well? Yeah. I mean, I've actually got that 6th fight, the St. Valentine's Day Massacre, on good quality actually, and it was just brutal, absolute brutal fight that. Alex, you're back, mate. What is your rivalries of all time? Your favourite ones?
My absolute favourite is probably Leonard and Duran. The third fight was largely forgettable. I mean, that really puts a slight taint on it, but the first 2 were just fantastic. Obviously, Leonard was the golden child, the big prodigy, the big just the king, and everyone loved him, and everyone wanted to be him, and he was just looked upon as just this perfect man. And then there was Duran, he was just rough and nasty and swearing, and just seen as this really nasty person who couldn't dare touch this great boxer. And Duran just beat the crap out of him in the first fight. He really made a man out of him, and it was an excellent first fight. We saw how great Leonard could be in that fight, as well as how great Duran was. And obviously the rematch, as much of a letdown as it was, being a Duran fan, we saw that how the mental aspect of fights really can get to people, and how a colossal victory for someone like Duran ended up turning into a colossal defeat and almost a career-ruining defeat for him. We saw, he went really to the rock bottom afterwards, all because of what Leonard had done to him, just how Duran did to him in the first fight. Duran baited him and taunted him and managed to get him to fight almost his fight in a way, and brought him down to his level. And in the rematch, Leonard did the exact same almost. He baited him, he taunted him, he made him fight his fight and made him feel so uncomfortable. And I thought that intensity was just excellent to watch.
I think as well, again, another one that has to be up there, even though it was only one fight, was the original fight of the century, Jack Johnson, James Jeffries, the fight of the, who was the greater race, basically. That transcended the sport. That meant everything. I mean, we can't imagine just how big it was at that time. And you got the cocky African American champion, and the old champion coming out of retirement to prove the white race was the best. The rivalry was there. It was in Reno, Nevada. Massive gate, massive, financially at the time, and we never got more fights out of it. But that rivalry that went up past boxing, it went into other things, obviously.
Now, lastly, because we've got no fights to talk next week, lastly, the one goes to wish you could have been there. Fights throughout history that you wish you could have been ringside for, and give your reasons why. Will Kurt, you like this one. Audley Harrison against Richo Hersissa. A chance to see the great man at his peak tearing apart the Dutch Sonny Liston. I checked that guy out, actually. That is his alias, believe it or not, the Dutch Sonny Liston. Marcus Bellinger says he wished he could have been Cesar Chavez against Greg Haugen. That would have been a mental
132,000 people.
Is that still a record, is it?
Yeah, 132,000. And that's another one that had the rivalry as well, because Haugen was talking a lot of shit about Chavez, and Chavez went in there, and I think the commentary, they were right. He could have finished it in the first round, but he didn't want to. He wanted to really punish Haugen, and it was just a brutal display from JC Superstar.
Yeah. Danny Robson says Bo against Holyfield 1.
Yes, that's mine, the fan man. Is that the first
one?
No,
that's the second fight, mate.
Second one? Oh no, sorry. Yes, the second one. That's for me, the fan man.
Bo Galata would have been better to be ringside for.
you might have found Bo's nuts lying in your fucking lap or something.
With the mad riot that took place as well.
They were kicking off in the crowd, weren't they too?
Mickey D says Corrales Castillo 1. That would have been insane.
Yeah, I got that one.
Brilliant.
This one I would love to have been at, obviously, as well. But just the atmosphere in MSG this night when Duran beat Davey Moore. Didn't just beat him, took him apart.
That was a beatdown.
That was one of the worst beatdowns you'd ever hope to see. I forget her name now. Sorry, dear, if I actually get your name wrong here. I think it's Aisha Basir. She says would love to have went to the Gatti Ward fights and Naz against Kevin Kelly. Yeah. I actually watched the undercard fight of that Kennedy McKinney against Junior Jones. That was an insane fight also in that card. And Manassa Muller says Mitchell versus Carl Johansson, Rocky Graziano against Tony Zale. Which one though, mate? Which one? And Jack Dempsey against Firpo. That is the ones that we sent into us now. For myself, who would I want to be at ringside? Now, obviously, I think the first fight between Ali and Frazier. That fight, it was practically like fighter A, fighter B. It was a fight that had to happen just to basically say like who is the best, who is the number one, who is the champion basically. And they they moved heaven and earth to get that fight. I mean, remember they were talking about, because Ali couldn't get licensed, they were thinking about having the fight on I think it's 747. How that would have worked out, I just do not know. But good to see that fight got made. And
same as Ali Foreman as well. It's one of those fights where you know that it's going to be always talked about and always remembered. To be honest.
Yep.
You've got to be ringside first for Foreman, again, destroying, obviously, Frazier and Norton first, so you can feel like the intensity of how brilliant Foreman is. And then you go to watch Ali Foreman and you're like, oh my god, Ali's in real fucking trouble here. But then you see him pull it out. I imagine it was just utterly fantastic.
Steve?
Yeah, sorry, I was on mute. Like I said, I'm a fan of the surreal and the bizarre. So it's not even necessarily what's going on in the ring that's concerning me. I would have loved to have been there whenever you see the fan man starting to appear from up above, about to fly in the ring. It's just I love all that. But then Corrales Castillo was one that stuck out for me, really.
Yeah.
You just imagine being there live, and we watch it back now, and even watching it live on the TV at the time was amazing. But just imagine being there, knowing you're sort of watching something amazing unfolding. You're watching history. It's like a little bit, obviously not that it was a good fight actually. I was going to say that when you were there, I was there for Dunn against Cordoba. You're watching history unfolding.
Great fight.
It's amazing just watching the rounds go by and looking back later on, but knowing you were there. So definitely Corrales Castillo for me, and the fan man. But I love all the bizarre things going on outside.
If you're talking about history and knowing that you're going to be a part of history, I think possibly the biggest fight of all time, Max Schmeling, Joe Louis too. I mean, just on the outbreak of World War II, Joe, we've spoken about this in the heavyweights, Joe Louis having the pressure of basically the whole United States, and for the first time having white people and black people cheering for him and basically needing him to prevail in that fight, and Max Schmeling being the playing the heel, everyone hating him and because of the Nazis and whatnot, and the fight only lasted a round obviously, but I think the build up and knowing you're going to the fight and be ringside, knowing that whatever happens you're going to be part of history, I think that to me is probably the biggest fight that has ever happened.
You could also put that under the great rivalries category as well, although by many accounts Schmeling was sort of handed the role rather than assuming it.
Yeah, they were good. Yeah, they actually went on to be very good friends, and he was guilty by association basically, but he's actually a good guy really in Schmeling.
Yeah.
He actually kind of opposed the Nazis actually. I don't think he was a member of the party, was he? I remember reading the documentary or something like that. But anyway, he ended up becoming a multi-millionaire, and Joe Louis ended up basically nothing. Basically, he had tax debts that Uncle Sam kept chasing him for and stuff. And I think eventually in the end, did he end up helping him out or something?
Schmeling was a very astute man, wasn't he? I think didn't he buy a Coca-Cola franchise or something like that?
Something like that.
In the end, they helped Louis out, but by then it was too late. I mean, he ended up. I mean, one of possibly the greatest heavyweight of all time was. Basically working in Vegas, opening doors for people and, taking them around. I mean, it's just a sad ending to a great fighter.
Any other nominations you got? I'm trying to think. Obviously, I think Gatti Ward, first fight, round 9 especially, I mean.
All of those ones, obviously, like the Vasquez,
Marquez
trilogy, all of them fights, Obviously, Marquez putting Pacquiao to sleep.
Well, I mentioned it earlier in the rivalries, but Salvador Sanchez, Wilfredo Gomez, Puerto Rico, Mexico, what an atmosphere that was. The build-up, the bad blood, and a great fight, and a great showing by Sanchez.
Yeah, the thing is, Sanchez was never really a fast starter. He came out the traps there so quick. Talking about also another great rivalry as well, was you talk about, great rivalry obviously between Mexico and Puerto Rico, but also another great fight that would been good to be ringside for, Carlos Zarata against Wilfredo Gomez. 5 round, just absolute, two great punchers. I think most of the losses all came by stoppage as well, actually. But it just, that was just insane. I think Zarata was basically fucked, and Gomez always had that spite about him that even after the bell, he was still going to throw punches and stuff. And Miguel Cotto needs to take note of that.
Well, speaking of Puerto Rico, Mexico, surely you would have been loved to be ringside for Margarito Cotto 1. What a fight that was! What a great fight that is. You could watch that in years to come, and it'd still be a fantastic fight. Both guys, really put it on.
So, That's it, I think, guys. As I said, we've no fights whatsoever next week. As I said, I don't think it's really going to start picking up until mid-February by the looks of it. So we'll tweet out what the topics of discussion will be next week. Maybe we'll have maybe a 1 hour podcast, don't know. We're kind of struggling for topics or fights, etc. and stuff. But just to let the listeners know is, if you're watching the Super Bowl tonight, don't hold out any hopes for any announcements at half time. If any chance, Floyd Mayweather might just turn around and end up fighting, I don't know, Frankie Gavin or something.
Apparently, Floyd Mayweather's going to sign for Frank Warren. That's going to be the announcement. First fight at the O2 Arena.
The Excel.
Yeah, and he's going to be fighting at 2 o'clock in the morning, so there'll be no bugs, apparently.
There'll be piss running down the bleachers and everything. Anyways, I'd like to thank Alex Morris. He's been getting a lot of hate recently, so well done, Alex. I'd like to thank Steve Wellens. I'd like to thank our usual man again, working on the beaver in the background, Kurt Ward. I've been your host, Andy Patterson, and we'll see you next week. All the best.
By Audley's calendar.
Carol Froch, not top £10 per pound. I see Adam's not here.
By Audley's book in Poundland.